Alright my friends, I made this video extra quick because there are a few important corrections I want to make about adventure mode, and I think that I have also completely, the tipping point has happened. I now understand adventure mode, at least the basics, so I can finally start explaining things correctly, hopefully. So let's just clear the air. A few quick corrections on my last video. Item 1, I mentioned that it seemed that I was locked out of flying straight into the air during ambushes. This turns out to be not correct at all. What I was picking up on was the fact that the few times that an ambush had occurred, they had occurred in very, very deep forest. And very, very deep forest has a dense tree canopy, which a somewhat humanoid, human-sized creature cannot just go straight up. So I was in fact bonking off the dense forest canopy during these ambushes. In clearer scenarios where you have more access to the sky, you can absolutely just fly up to solve that ambush. Relatedly, one other thing I learned, so there's two things that I've encountered that will pull you out of fast travel mode. And one is an ambush where it spawns enemies who are targeted on you, and one is you feel uneasy, which is apparently where an ambush is in the area, but some skill is triggered to let you anticipate the ambush before it happens. Now in my case, a few times I felt uneasy and avoided the ambush completely. I just went in a different direction. Other times I did in fact find what was trying to ambush me, and in this case it was like a pack of dingoes. And I was able to fight them off. We're gonna get into that. So the title of this video is Zephon the Killer. I think I have like 50 kills in total now, and like 30 of those are notable, something like that. And I did that with DF hack and some cheating. My Birdman is now whatever your preferred ultimate evil from a fantasy game is. My character is like Ganondorf from The Legend of Zelda or something, because he is now super, super powerful and just causing problems wherever he goes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Second correction from the last video. I said that I thought that badger man that I killed, I thought that he was flirting with his girl by lying about having combated me, but now I've actually run into this, I'm not sure if it's a glitch or if it's a bug or just not a feature that's not finished yet, but a lot of NPCs, if they don't trust you, will converse amongst themselves about the potential for combat with you, and that will be displayed as like, I was attacked by Zephon Birdman just earlier, when it actually hasn't happened. It's a little bit of an irregularity, but that's what was happening. In fact, these badger people were what they were trying to express was that they were afraid that I was about to attack them, and indeed I was. So in that way, it was kind of working as intended. But so great, we got all the corrections out of the way now. Let me tell you about the new things I learned for adventure mode, and how you too can build basically any character and turn on God mode. I put in the thumbnail a joke about God mode, but there are in fact like 3 DF hack commands. If you want to this is what I recommend. This is how I've always learned Dwarf Fortress, is you set it, you use hacking and cheats to make it as easy as possible, and then once you start to feel comfortable with what's going on, you can give yourself more and more challenge as you'd like to. So in this case, I finally figured out how to basically turn on God mode. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to put it up on the screen, hopefully right here. The 3 or so commands that I've been using that make it pretty impossible to lose. And the first one, the easiest one maybe to understand, is just full heal. You type in full-heal, and as long as you are targeted on your character with the Z key, at least on the version I'm using, as long as you are in your character's menus, it will absolutely heal all injuries. It will also cure thirst and hunger. And so anything that is threatening your adventurer, will be reset completely by full heal in DF hack. So that's really fun. That's got me going. That's made things a lot easier. Now, the other 2 DF hack utilities that have caused me to completely crack open adventure mode, and now no one can ever mess with my Birdman ever again. He gets whatever he wants. So full heal gets him out of trouble where he gets hurt, or even if he's starving or something. Another one is called GUI, as in, graphical user interface, /GM editor. And what that's going to let you do, this was incredible. Thanks again to Nultan. I'm thanking Nultan in basically every video and post these days, but it's because they're just such an expert about adventure mode. So GM editor, you can go in and it will show you every little thing that the game is simulating about your character. And if you go down to physical attributes and then click through that, I was struggling with that. It is a GUI, it's a graphical interface, so you can click. So you click down into physical attributes and then into body. And let me actually make sure that I'm getting this right, because I don't want to get it wrong again. Okay, so yeah, so you probably just noticed a cut there. That is because I had to go back to my notes. So yeah, you're going to go into GM editor and then scroll down towards the bottom, and in body, you can click through into something called physical attributes, and it's going to give you some hexadecimal crazy programmer nonsense That's okay, because you can click through again and you can get the actual value for your strength, agility, intelligence, all of your main stats. And what I went ahead and did, once I had clicked through all these menus using GM Editor, my strength was like 1329. I set that to 9999. I did the same with my agility and my endurance. This is a good segue. So the reason I did that, I was having a fine time. I was doing okay. But in my previous videos, Noltan mentioned, he was like, hey, do you realize you're like super over encumbered? Your speed is tiny. The reason you're getting hurt in combat is like, so speed, I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but just to make it clear, it counts as a tick in the game. Every time you do something with your speed, so if it's like 0.0193, everything else in the world moves at a ratio of as though the world is moving at a value of 1 speed. So if you have 0.01, say for example, so that's 1% of 1, of course. So every time you try to move, including combat, so if you try to swing your axe or anything, the rest of the world with their own, speed variables is going to move 100 times, basically. That's just an example. But so what we found, and this was really, really interesting. So once I got my speed and my agility and my endurance up, now my speed, you'll see in these clips, is like 4. So I'm moving 4 times as fast as what the game considers an average movement speed, which is nice. I can chase things down now. But so after I did that, I started racking up my Zephon kills. And part of that was that I was having so much trouble finding a trader. All of my clothes had been destroyed, had rotted off my body in this long adventure. And so what I ended up doing, I ended up just killing anybody I could find to try to get clothes that would fit me. And in this, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to say I'm pretty sure because, like I said, I was confidently incorrect on the last video, but I'm going to say this time, I have now killed dwarves, goblins, elves, and humans, and all of their clothing that I loot reports as large. And specifically, so in-game and adventure mode, how it works is it will describe the item as appropriate for you. It'll say a cat leather robe. But if it is too large for you, it's from a bit larger creature, it will say a large cat leather robe. And then when you go to wear things in the wear menu, it will refuse that. It'll count it as an item, which is not useful. So I have established that from the perspective of my Grackle Man, dwarves, goblins, humans, and elves are all way too large for it to wear their clothes, which means that the reason I was probably so over encumbered was that my Grackle Man is a little bird. He's closer to a bird size than a man size, I guess. But that doesn't matter anymore because, like I said, I've hacked his strength, his agility, and his endurance. So now he moves 4 times as quickly as the average thing. And every time he attacks a body part, it is lopped off. It is cleaved entirely from the creature. So I basically just say, I would like this character's head off, and then the head pops off. Now that Grackle Man is truly indefatigable and indefeatable, we are just going all over the continent trying to see what's up. I'm going to try to collect some legendary items, The quest mechanism of this game is that you'll hear rumors about some terrible monster, or some bandits, or something nearby, and they'll give you a direction to head, and they want you to go be an adventurer and solve it for them, go be a hero. So during times when I'm not just being the problem in town and, just killing people to see if their clothes will fit me, that's a good sound clip that somebody can clip later to get me in trouble. But when I'm not causing trouble in town and just killing everyone to see if I can find some new clothes, I will help them and I'll keep everybody posted. I plan to get some legendary items. The only legendary items so far that I've heard of in this adventure are a book and then a couple of armor pieces, but I'll take those armor pieces. They might be too large for me again. A few people had been mentioning GUI. I almost forgot to talk about, so let's say you don't want to super edit your character and make them massively powerful like I did. Maybe you want to cheat a little less. So 2 things that I also really found incredibly useful are GUI create item. And again, you should see this on your screen, and GUI advanced fort, adventure fort rather. I'm sorry, it's not advanced fort. So GUI Adventure Fort. And what that does, and a few people have recommended this, thanks as always, I'm going to thank Saltwater Aquifer, again, one of my oldest friends on this channel in terms of good advice about Dwarf Fortress. They mentioned as well, a lot of people were mentioning, you got to get GUI Advanced Fort going. But so GUI Advanced Fort lets you dig through, I'll try to leave a screenshot here, lets you dig like a dwarf, lets you set up other workshops. Because I've learned how to dig, I've actually collected some valuable gems, and I think I might set up a gem cutter workshop if I can with Advanced Fort. Again, this is not, I keep saying Advanced Fort, but I mean Adventure Fort. Adventure Fort, so the only workshop in adventure mode right now in the current version 47 is the Carpenter's Workshop to set up wood things. Adventure Fort lets you do most of the things that you can do in a fortress, so I'm thinking I might that can be a source of passive income. I can find gemstones and practice cutting them myself. You'll see in this gameplay too, my skill set is getting crazier and crazier. I practice telling jokes, I've practiced flattering people, I'm getting good at the conversational skills as well. What was I gonna say? Oh, but so create item is really, really cool. And if you, for example, if you wanna make use of Adventure Fort, then you might wanna create yourself a nice masterwork steel pickaxe like I did, which is now also one of my favorite weapons. One last thing before I stop on Adventure Fort. You're gonna have to explore these on your own in DFHack, but one last thing I wanted to say about, so I was really struggling so the way that Adventure Fort works is that it gives you all of the things that a dwarf might normally be able to do in Fortress mode, and you have to toggle between them with, in my version, it's capital T and capital R. And then once you have chosen what you want to do, dig a channel or do something like that, you have to have the item, you have to have the correct tool equipped, which in my case was a pickaxe. And then when you have the correct tool equipped in your dominant hand, which for mine is a right hand, I'm not sure if you can even have a left-handed character, but I did test it and it seemed that it wasn't picking up on me having the pickaxe in my offhand. But so I put the pickaxe in my right hand, and then you have to move carefully, this opened up a whole other thing to me in Dwarf Fortress. So in addition to sneaking in adventure mode, you can also move carefully, which is you hold down Alt and then also, do the directional keys. And if you hold down Alt and do directional keys with DFHack's Adventure Fort open, then it will dig through and it will treat you more like a dwarf in Fortress mode than in adventure mode. I hope that made sense. I'm sure that it didn't. But if you can pull up, use the lazy new pack. I made a recent short about how to get the lazy new pack and do all this stuff. If you can get your setup looking like mine, then hopefully my instructions will be helpful. Okay, but I think that's all I have today. Just wanted to get a few things straight from last video and also just kind of get hyped. So I looked up, I said, when is adventure mode coming out for the Steam version? Because let's be honest, the Steam version is really shiny. It's really nice. I'm really proud of what they did in Fortress mode, and I hope that adventure mode can look like that soon in the Steam version, just as nice and just as soon. But every time I look up when it's coming out, the same kind of argument and depressed kind of mood develops, where some fan says, the team said that this will be done by the end of this year, which is 2023, so coming up pretty soon. And then someone else says, yeah, but I forget exactly who it was, but one of the brothers, one of the creators was like, yeah, well, we could release it this year, or we could add in a bunch of new stuff, and who knows when it'll be done. And then the mood in the forum is like, oh my god, please just give us adventure mode instead of adding more things. But we'll see. That's not my place to say. These creators, if we had been backseat driving them the whole time, we never would have had Dwarf Fortress in the first place. So, cautiously optimistic for adventure mode in Steam soon, and at the very worst case, I'll at least remember a few things when it does eventually come out, so I can check that out with all y'all. I think I might mix it up, switch back to the Steam version, and play some Fortress mode again. This has been a really nice break. I'll keep Gracon's saves on file, though. He'll be around forever. And if anything funny or interesting turns up, I will definitely share that with all y'all. I think that's really all I have to say today. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks as always for interacting however you can. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe. I think everybody's subscribed at this point, honestly. And just like and leave a comment if you can. If you like this video, dislike it if you disliked it. And yeah, thanks again, everybody. I will catch you in the next one. All right, and welcome back, everybody, to Dwarf Fortress Explained Poorly. We are here on a brand new embark that has already been lovingly named Mangler Falls. As you can see, huge, massive waterfall. It actually falls 10Z levels straight down, naturally occurring, and then the river splits as well down at the bottom. And you can see, actually, what I just pointed out were mangled otter skeletons, right there, river otter mangled skeleton. And that's because this waterfall is so powerful that it's actually killing animals that try to go over it. And so we have 4 water wheels there, running at maximum capacity. So that's 400 power right there. And it's currently running those 2 millstones. You'll see by the end of this video that that we have 8 running. So we have 800. Sometimes it'll hiccup down to 700 basically because so I don't believe that the standing water that's at 7 above these wheels will actually generate water. It doesn't count as flowing, I don't think. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But so I had to put it where the water was actually falling off of this cliff, and there's only really about room for 8. And I would say those run now, 7 of them run at full efficiency, and 1 occasionally skips and goes offline. And by the end of this video, you'll see that we built some more engineering infrastructure around, lots of gear assemblies that things can be hooked up to. And I've also actually built out over the waterfall. So the idea being that right where the cliff ends, we can also do vertical axes straight down and bring that power down deeper into the fortress. And it looks pretty good. All the assemblies and everything, and even the millstones running on it are only like 200 power, so we still have like 600 power to work with on powered minecart rollers or something else fun. You know, lots of. I'll take suggestions if you're looking at this map and you're like, whoa, I have the perfect idea for this. Let me know. Currently, we're up to like 36 population. Everyone's happy. We have a waterfall now. We're down into this first dead cave. And this is a really beautiful map. I chose this embark carefully, and I like it. It's very, very like mountainous and has a lot of cool little natural areas that you could really do something with. Like towards the center of the screen, towards the center of the map rather, is like a square indentation that we could fortify in a very interesting way. Lots of cool stuff like that. I'm also digging out the cliff faces and stuff like that. Really, really cool topology for this one. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to play it carefully. I'm not going to go too fast. I'm going to make sure I have a really healthy fortress because I feel like that's going to be the best way to have a lot of interesting things going on. One complaint I do have, there's 2 weird things about this embark. And one cool thing is that we are like right next door to a friendly human civilization and a friendly goblin civilization. So like I've actually never experimented with that before, but like goblins are coming in, hanging out, even helping to defend. The main problem is that I'm getting this glitch where visitors they'll petition to be allowed to stay over and over and over again, like constantly, basically. And this is a long-running glitch. And, you know, people are basically just saying you have to kill these visitors. I don't want to. These are like the first nice goblins I've ever met. So if you have a way to fix that so that that stops happening, that would help me play this in the ideal possible way. One other thing is, and I mentioned this in the thumbnail, flying lungfish. And my theory for that is that because this river starts on 1 Z level and then it also counts as river tiles 10 Z levels down, more like 11 or 12. I think the game has no idea where to put these lungfish, so they are flying through the air. They're I think coming up we're going to see. I'll show you some footage of these lungfish, and I've confirmed that this glitch goes back like 10 years, and it has to do with lungfish being a type of vermin, I believe. And, you know, vermin kind of spawn in areas that are appropriate for them. And so because this map is technically counting as like a river across 10 different Z levels, we'll find lungfish flying. They're right there. There they are. They're flying, as you can see, high above the treetops, flying through this valley, high above the river. And I think it's because the game is confused. I think it's because, as you can see on the map to the right, that part of the river is at this level, so the game is kind of going, yeah, this makes sense for lungfish as vermin to be crawling out, because, yeah, look, the river's right over there, but obviously it's a little silly. So and they fly up and down like birds, they go up and down, yeah, it's funny, I was going through the old archives, and there's people saying that, you know, the person who's playing must not understand, or must be making some mistake, or have a mod installed, but no, it's just an old funny thing. You can even find it on the wiki. It'll say that lungfish fly in the joke in the comedy section, which is at the bottom of a lot of wiki pages. There you can see, I really need to dig out the bottom of this waterfall because things are getting trapped. You can see that's wood from trees that have been chopped down. Things are collecting. It's actually, you know, this is a real phenomenon in hydrodynamics where it's called a drowning machine, appropriately enough, because it's basically the water hits like straight down so hard and then goes down deep, you know, can then like doesn't get kicked back up. There's the way that the water is falling doesn't kind of create an equal and opposite reaction on the things that are carried down into that water. So I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but basically things get trapped there. The water pressure kind of like forces things down to the foot of a waterfall, which is usually kind of deep underwater. So I'll try to figure out if I can get that out of there, because eventually, you know, I'll have to recover skeletons, and you know, because it's there, I want to have my control over it instead of nature just doing what it wants. So let's see. This is going to be the new map for a lot of, you know, all the new projects. Let me know what you'd like to see. Definitely enjoying this one. This one's just for fun. I'm not trying to stunt anymore with, you know, an evil embark and all this weird stuff going on. I'm just going to have a nice community with some goblin friends and some human friends. And I'm just really looking forward to that. There you see the 8 water wheels are all powered up. And I'm even building over the open space, you know, a new bridge. And that's where we're going to start taking this power and putting it down deeper into the caverns, down into the fortress rather. But yeah, that's all. I'm excited about this one. So I'm doing the opposite of an impressive map this time. This is going to be an easy one. No aquifer and lots of flux stone. So we're going to have steel. I think it's low savagery as well, but like high beast. So we're going to have food. It's not going to be hard to get. We're going to have steel. We're going to have power, water, waterfalls, all the stuff that we like for good Dwarven living. So yeah, that's all I got today. Thanks for bearing with me last time. I know I was like, getting frustrated on that last map. That was kind of like tail spinning, but you know, it's all in good fun. And this is peaceful. This is very idyllic, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And yeah, that's all I got. I'll check in with a new video soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I really appreciate that. You guys have been doing great about that. Hey, wait, I totally forgot to give my thanks. So, Mangler Falls, that name was given to me by a YouTube commenter. Let me look through his notes real quick and find his name. I'm going to leave it in the comments. Oh, this is so bad. I should have remembered it. Satch, S-A-T-C-H. Satch on YouTube is the one that named this map Mangler Falls. Thank you for that. And we are getting a Discord setting up. I'm going to keep you guys posted. I promise. I promised a few people Discord. I'm going to get that set up, okay? So don't think I'm forgetting about this stuff. Undead whale in a cage. I know I make a lot of promises, but I also don't forget my promises. So don't worry about me, guys. I'm gonna get you all this stuff. Subscriber special still may be coming up. We actually are going to hit like 500 subscribers pretty soon. So like, yeah, you guys earned something. Still kind of trying to decide. I guess, but that'll probably take place on this map. So keep that in mind. We're gonna do something funny and crazy. I'm not sure if this freezes in the winter. That would be interesting. I think I've played a few years and I haven't seen any freeze, but I'll keep an eye out. Okay, that's all I got today, guys. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Hey everybody, it's your boy back. It's been a little while. And the reason for that is that I've actually been switching jobs in real life. And that got me thinking, talking about jobs, labor, occupations, and these are all different things in the context of Dwarf Fortress. That's something we haven't covered yet on Dwarf Fortress Explained Poorly. So I said, why not? Let's jump in. I'm already thinking about jobs and labor all day anyway. Let's hash it out in Dwarf Fortress. So first main category we're going to talk about is labor. Well, let's start at the beginning. So a job refers to a specific task. If I say I need a chairmaid, that's a job. Labor refers in general to all the different types of work. And, there's a specific menu for that where you assign labors. You say everyone does this, or selected do this, or no one does this. And there's a lot of different kind of little subtleties to that. So that's what we mean when we're talking about labor. And then occupation is actually a different thing that describes where you have a specific zone where specific dwarves are tasked with performing some role. So these would be examples of like a doctor or a surgeon in a hospital, or a performer or a priest inside of a temple, or a tavern keeper, or also a performer as well in a tavern, or scribes and scholars in a library. These are occupations. These are different. We're going to get into each of these, and I'm just going to ramble. I got a drink in front of me. It's evening. I am unemployed at the moment. So we're just going to gonna ramble, and I hope that everybody learns some stuff. I'm gonna learn some stuff. I'm here on the Dwarf Fortress Wiki, and we're gonna hash this all out. So when you go into your labor menu, and that's the one that has things that you can toggle, like it has mining, it has hunting, it has wood cutting, and it has the 3 settings over there on the right that says everyone does this, or selected does this, or nobody does this. We're going to talk about all those different things and kind of the considerations. Much like the real world, every type of labor has its own considerations in terms of your skills, in terms of your tools, and in terms of who can do it. So mining, woodworking, and hunting are the first ones that come to mind, as you can't just tell everyone to do it. And the reason for that is that it does require a specific tool. The dwarf can either carry a pickaxe, or they can carry a pickaxe, a woodcutting axe, or they can carry a bow and arrow, or rather a crossbow in most cases. You can have a bow if you get it from elves or humans or something, but in most cases that'll be a crossbow with bolts. And the dwarf only has 2 hands, of course, so it has to choose one of those. And also, here's something I didn't know, but I found on the wiki. Apparently this will actually, supersede instructions for military outfits. So even if they are military and they're instructed to keep a sword on them at all times, that will be apparently, at least in most or current versions, superseded by their instruction to carry a pickaxe or a woodcutting axe or a bow and arrow. And let me just get this out of the way early. If you catch me saying anything wrong, just leave it in the comments, correct me for the benefit of everybody. Again, this is just a ramble sesh, and I'm doing my best to be accurate based on my own memory, but we all know how that goes if you've been on this channel for any amount of time. There are also other labors that everyone can do. It's a little less specialized. You don't need a tool for it. This would be like stoneworking, fishing, plant gathering. So a little tip, something I like to do, if I need to get all my dwarfs to the surface, what I'll do is I'll select all the plants on the surface for gathering, and then I'll say, everyone does this, and then usually they'll all run up there, especially if you set the priority for it to 1, to top priority. Same thing if I need the dwarves all on one level of the fortress, I'll find some unsmooth stone and set everyone to stone smoothing, say this is a labor everyone can do, and then I'll choose a big area and tell them this all needs to be smooth, and that'll usually get all the dwarves in the fortress down to that area. So there are certain labors that you can kind of exploit to move your dwarves en masse, to a certain area. Fishing is another one. It doesn't require any tools. We've discussed this on the channel before, but how dwarves fish, they don't need fishing rod or tackle or anything. They wade into the water, and then all the accumulated food in their beard attracts fish that then get stuck in their beard, and then they just walk out of the water with the fish. That being said, of course, if there are associated skills with all of these, and so the quality and the speed with which the work is done will depend on the dwarves' specific skills. And I've got the wiki open here. I'm looking at it. I'm just going to pick out some interesting ones. Well, let's talk about the ones I just talked about. So in the case of fishing, we'll just pull that up. So in most cases, the skill level will affect just the speed, like how many ticks of the game before the task is done. In a lot of relevant cases, it'll also affect stack size. So in the case of plant gathering, the skill will affect the yield, the amount of plant that is gathered. And likewise with fishing, the stack size of what is pulled up will also be increased by that skill. But so I never really pay too much attention to that. I'll just kind of assign random dwarves to random things. And as they practice, that skill will go up the longer they do that job. But, being unskilled at the beginning doesn't really make much of a difference. The exception being for some types of, especially skilled work, like let's talk about doctoring. So, diagnosis. Your diagnosis skill, the diagnosis skill of the dwarf, affects not only the speed with which they do it, but the chance that they are actually being accurate. Likewise, surgery. If a high surgery skill will increase the speed, but it will also reduce the amount of bleeding caused and will reduce the chance of failure. So these are important things. This is where you really want to make sure that your doctors are actually skilled at the things that they're doing, as opposed to fishing or plant gathering or smoothing stone, where there is more forgiveness for trial and error and things like that. Interestingly, according to the wiki at least, setting bones is relatively less skilled, and it only is affected by speed. That's what the wiki says, at least. So you can let doctors just practice setting bones, and it won't increase the fatality risk. And likewise with dressing wounds, apparently. Again, I'll have this, you all know the Dwarf Fortress wiki, but I will try to have that link in the description, just in case you want to double check anything I'm saying. So here's another one where I don't really specify very much. Like, I let anyone practice, but it seems like I'm losing out on money. in gem cutting. Speed is affected by the skill set, by the skill level, but also the gem's quality and the decoration quality in the case of gem setting. So the quality will be affected if you have an unskilled dwarf. I don't really care. I tend to let them all practice, and eventually they all know a little bit about gem cutting. Let me see. Is there any other? Hunting is another one. Ambushing, trapping, animal training, where if they're not skilled, they will fail, actually. It doesn't just take longer, they will fail. Oh, I remember the funniest one. So gelding, apparently. Which, if you're not familiar, gelding is the art of removing the male reproductive organs from an animal for the purposes of, population control. We might call it, it's akin to spaying or neutering in this, in the modern world. But so skill affects the likelihood of the dwarf itself being injured, which makes sense. If you do it neatly and cleanly and you know what you're doing, then the animal's probably upset, but the dwarf will not be injured. If you are mucking around and you don't know what you're doing, then the dwarf may walk away kicked in the face or badly bitten or scratched. And that tracks. And the only other one that I'm seeing on this list or that comes to mind are the skill of a cook will affect the quality of the meal. And that makes sense. We all know what it's like to muck around in the kitchen and not make something delicious because we're not very skilled. Or conversely, to make something really delicious because we know what we're doing. With that said, let's move on to occupations. Now, I have here what appears to be a comprehensive list of all occupations, what are considered occupations in Dwarf Fortress. This is doctor, diagnostician, surgeon, bone doctor, messenger, performer, scholar, scribe, and tavern keeper. Now, keep in mind, these occupations are also different from being a noble, which is also something that we'll talk about. Although I believe there may be some overlap. I believe that you do assign messengers from the noble screen. Anyway, it gets complicated. Doctors are involved with diagnosis, surgery, and setting bones. Diagnosticians specifically diagnose. Surgeons specifically do surgery. Bone doctors specifically set bones. Messengers, it says, allow you to interact with your hillocks and conquered sites, which is more of an abstract thing. They leave your map and they come back with certain things. I'm honestly not even sure how to use them to their greatest efficiency. If you know about using messengers in a meaningful way, feel free to leave that in the comment. Or if you'd like to learn more, check out the Wikia. Messenger has its own little article here. Performers dance, recite poetry, sing, or play music to entertain other dwarves. These are all skills, dancing, poetry, or if not skills, they are knowledge sets. So they're things that your dwarves can know about. So like, a dwarf can know different types of poetry, know different types of dance, know different types of music. And I guess that the only real effect there would be a very skilled musician has a better chance of playing different kinds of music, which are going to give a wider audience more happy thoughts. And likewise, if a dancer is very skilled, it's a better chance of everyone having a good time in that party and getting a happy thought and feeling better as they go away. Scholars and scribes, we've talked about in my episode about libraries. Scholars think up ideas for books and occasionally will actually write them down. And scribes actually do the grunt work of making copies of the scrolls and the quires and the books, copying, basically. They're transcriptionists after the scholar has finished their manuscript on some great thought. Tavern keepers serve drinks. So this is a very interesting one. And if you when you're assigning these occupations in these zones, it will sort your dwarves, or if not sort, at least, depending on what version you're on, it will list the dwarves that have relevant skills. And so tavern keeper, it's actually quite interesting. It's like persuasion, intimidation, joke making, imagine like a barkeep, You have to deal with the rowdy people or the people who are being rude, and you have to make sure everyone else is having a good time, all that stuff. So that's, with any occupation, it'll show you dwarves that have relevant skills and help you make your decision in that way. Now, this likewise is also true for nobles, and maybe that's a good segue. We'll move into nobles now. We all know about nobles. Some of them are quite useful. They're called utility nobles, or also known as administrators in some references. There's ones like your manager who will actually do incredibly useful things, and then there's other ones that are just they kind of gold brick. They sit there and they are expensive. That is at least in the latest Steam version, nobles are also kind of when you're choosing one, it'll show you what relevant skills apply and what dwarves you have to choose from. Organization, I know, and I don't have it in front of me for the wiki, but just from memory, I know organization is very important for the manager. The mayor is a social skill one. They have to be able to schmooze and to help other dwarves feel better, have good conversations with them. Same thing with diplomats, or much like the mayor. Militia captains need to have some battle tactics, leadership. I believe the ability to teach is also valuable, but I could be wrong on that one. Expedition leader is another one where organization is very important.
I'm looking for ones where skills play into it. Captain of the Guard is another one where military skills are important, also leadership. Chief Medical Dwarf, of course, you want them to be a doctor, some kind of diagnostician, have some skill as a doctor. That's another one where people will get hurt if they're unskilled. Sheriff and Dungeon Master, I believe, are ones where like intimidation and lying are important, or they'll help on certain roles. Oh, I forgot flattery is important for like mayors and things like that. I'm not sure off the top of my head if Hammerer needs any skills besides swinging that what the skill is called for like interrogation. I'm trying to remember now. There's some skill that's like perceiving deceit. Oh, Judge of Intent. That's what it's called. Judge of Intent is the ability to wheedle out and discern if someone is lying or not. But it'll list organization as well is important for like bookkeeping. And broker. Broker is one where again like flattery, persuasion, Judge of Intent comes into play. All these social skills. And then you have people like the Baron or the Count or the Duke who or the Monarch who really don't need any skills. Their job is to sit there and be awesome and demand things, and they really don't contribute anything beyond that, if they can be said to contribute anything at all. A few things I realized that I had forgotten. Engineering is another one where where skill matters. So the quality of the things they produce. So like often you ever notice that you build like a mechanism and you pull the lever and it takes like forever. It takes like 45 seconds to actually close. That's because an unskilled engineer using poor quality materials often made a bad mechanism. So it's grinding, it barely works. But so engineering is one for like, and that involves siege engineering, siege operating, mechanics, pump operating. And the other thing I wanted to mention is appraisal is important for brokers. I forgot about appraisal, but that's the ability to like determine what things are worth. So you definitely want your broker to have appraisal for sure. And I think that is most of what I'm seeing here. But so yeah, I just wanted to check in with everybody. I hadn't made a video in a while. Just wanted to let you all know I'm still playing Dwarf Fortress, and there's still plenty to talk about. If you made it this far in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. All that stuff really helps the channel. We are increasingly close to the subscriber mark that would actually let me get paid from the ads that run on these videos, which would be incredible. I would love for a little extra pocket change, especially since I need a job. I'm out of a job myself. But, so I love y'all, and thanks for watching, and I will catch everybody in the next one. I will try. It sounds like adventure mode is right on the horizon. Like in April is what the dev team is saying. And it looks like, just like with the Steam version, it looks like they're doing incredibly good work, and I expect to be kind of blown away. It sounds like they've added useful, interesting things, and it should look pretty and run pretty. And so I will definitely be in touch with. I heard a rumor that it is even going to have backwards compatibility with earlier versions. So I wonder if I even saved and backed up my Grackle Man. I could even keep playing him, potentially. We'll see. I don't want to promise that, because I might have lost the saves, and the backwards compatibility thing might have been a rumor. But, yeah, I will catch everybody soon. As always, yours truly. All right, gang. I'm all riled up today. I'm in a glass case of emotion. I'm wound up. I'm flustered. Let me just start from the beginning. So last we talked about steel spikes, and we talked about minecart blenders, minecart shotguns, and a little bit, some of the people in the comments were talking about Dwarven reactors. So I have investigated all of these, and these have all clowned my butt and really just left me frustrated today. But that's the fun thing, losing is fun. I'm going to remind everybody, that's the motto. Losing is fun in Dwarf Fortress. So I had a ton of fun today, and I'm going to take you through this footage. Ready? So, all right, so first thing, steel spikes. Absolutely no flux-stone on this map. Which, so, for everyone's familiar, to get steel, you need to treat iron with flux-stone to create pig iron, and then treat that with, I believe, flux-stone again to get proper steel. This is the only spike that's not going to be crushed apart when we try to stab a demon with it, so we need it. We need the steel. We're not even going to get that far. So I had the worst idea in Dwarf Fortress that I probably ever had. And you'll see in this room to the north that we're looking at right now. So that was my first meeting area, and for some reason, I don't know the exact mechanics. Leave in the comments if you know why this happens, but like the animals you bring with you will stay with your wagon. And then when you make your first meeting area, if they don't have a more specific place to be, they will hang out there forever in that first meeting area. So mine was a weird mix of like, I guess, because I breached all the caverns so quickly or whatever, but there's enough to graze on for everything. So the animals have just been self-sustaining in this spot where I forgot about them, and they've been breeding because I haven't been butchering and I haven't been gelding. You'll see by the end of this, I have 5,000 meat because I had to get there was a stray animal problem that was messing up my game, and not even in like an FPS way, but like actively causing problems, like too many stray animals. And so I started processing them, and even that proved really, really challenging. So what happened is I ended up making a pasture out on the corner of my map, and I said all these animals can go out to this pasture, and I'm going to ignore them again. And the first cloud of merc that comes across, they'll all turn into merc zombies. They'll all kill each other. So merc zombies are kind of like the Highlander, where there can be only one. Like, they'll kind of fight themselves to death in most cases, or at least the vast majority will. So I was like, yeah, we'll just leave them out there. It'll be fine. And they did become merc zombies, but that quickly spiraled out of control. Let me even see if I can remember all the bad stuff that happened. The way that this relates to steel production is that I was like, there's no flux stone on this map, so I absolutely, positively must ask my liaison to please bring me some flux stone. That's the only way I'm going to get it on this map. I have to talk to a trader who speaks Dwarvish and who takes requests, and I have to ask for flux stone. There's no way to talk to these traders now that I've created a zombified Night of the Living Dead, like a million zombies wandering this. So I really shouldn't have done that. You'll see by the end of this that my surface is covered in just battle gore. My population is also down to 60. Putting those animals on the pasture and being like, I'm going to let the mercs sort it out, slapped me in the face so hard that I'm still crying. And that I think that this map is actually now ruined. I think that this, unless I save scum like years in the past, I feel myself in tailspin, and you'll see it by the end of this video. But where was I? So, we can't get any flux. So steel spikes are off the table. Off the table. At least until I can reclaim the surface. And I do by the end of this, but it costs me like, even with save scumming, it cost me like a third of my fortress. Okay, so this is the animal problem. You see all these animals? I don't know where they keep coming from, but they kept breeding and none of them starved to death. And this is what... Do you guys remember when I did that reclamation embark? And the weird thing is what caused me to have a tailspin? Again, Dwarf Fortress maps, you'll lose for reasons that you would never ever guess. So this time was too many stray animals, and this is me trying to deal with it. I'm trying to butcher them all, geld the ones that can be, or just butcher everything. I've been pitting them, just throwing them down a big pit to kill them. Like, this became a crisis, and it caused me to not be able to trade, and that meant no more steel. So no stabbing the demons. Sorry, I'm going to use, just because it's too confusing if I stab these big monsters. So that's off the table. So I got about 90% of the way through a minecart blender. And I stopped enjoying water engineering in Dwarf Fortress for a second, because there's so many things that will change the pressure that you need to run a water wheel. And so I've been experimenting with 1, then 2, then 3 water wheels just to power this minecart blender that's a few Z levels up, that it like splits the difference between a source of easily infinite water that drains easily, which is very specific that far deep down, and then where the demons are. So I'm just trying to split the difference. I'm being as efficient as I possibly can be. And right now I have 3 water wheels that are like chugging and barely run this thing. My dwarves are also refusing to set the mine cart that I couldn't find platinum, so I used a silver mine cart. But my dwarves aren't placing it for some reason, and I've done all the standard troubleshooting. I've made sure they have a path to it, make sure that the cart seems to be in a stockpile, make sure that the minecart route exists and that the cart is assigned in that way, and that... God, what else? This game is hard. Sorry, there was actually one other troubleshooting thing that I did. Make sure that there's a stop with instructions so that the dwarf, so that the game understands that, I need this minecart. There's work to be done on this mine track. So tell me what I'm doing wrong. I must have missed something. But, so then what else went wrong? Something else went wrong. I got notes for this. Let me check. So, Dwarf Fortress explained poorly. Dwarven Reactor we didn't get that far into. I can see where it would be. So, for those of you who don't know, it's a really cool engineering premise, and scientifically it's really cool. I'll just go into it. I didn't have time for it in this. There was too much hair on fire trouble. But Dwarven Reactors are an exploit that we love. And it's just that you can run enough power through water wheels, create enough power with water flowing through water wheels to actually power screw pumps that automatically pipe that water back up to fall down again. So it's a perpetual motion machine using water. And the exploit lies in the screw pump, because the game is assuming, correctly for itself, but incorrectly in the laws of real physics, that it takes, just for game balance, it takes less energy for a screw pump to move water in cubic inches or whatever up than the water running back down in a perfectly engineered water wheel can output. That's too much for me, I think, at this point, because I'm struggling to just get these 3 water wheels cranking. It's good. It's like, so, okay, here's an example of how I was troubleshooting these water wheels. So, like, obviously you want as much pressure as possible going straight out through the water wheel. So I wasn't getting enough pressure, and I was like, okay, well, this water is just kind of like spilling out on the floor, and it's creating waves, and it's waving back into the water wheel. So it's like, if you can imagine, like, just a thin layer of water that's just tapping this water wheel in the wrong direction. And I mean, that's what was happening in the simulation. So I was like, okay, well, I'll channel it out. So the water won't splash back if I put it down at Z level. But then that makes it easier in general for the water to escape. So now the water is flowing very easily, basically under the water wheel. So now I've ruined everything. And surprisingly hard to... Once an area has water flowing over it, like has a stream of water going through it, it's very, very hard to get a dwarf to even place a door, to place a wall, anything that would block the flow of water. So the water has kind of claimed that area, and you can like thin the water out by digging out further. And believe me, I tried all that. You'll see in this footage, I'm doing everything to try to get this water to just please power these water wheels enough which, to be fair, I'm asking a lot. I mean, it's not like the water wheels are underpowered or anything in general, but I'm asking it to power something that's like 6 Z levels away, because that's the medium point between this water and the demons. Let's see, how much time do I have left? Thank you for watching, everybody. If you haven't already, like and comment and subscribe, please. When the numbers go up, it makes me really happy. Makes me feel better after tough days of work. Okay, we're back. Sorry, that's also multitasking. That's how I stall while I'm pulling up a note or something. So right now we're looking at, let me see, I'm saving as unpaused burrow. So many mistakes. So this is the point at which I'm getting frustrated with myself. And as you can see, my population is at 55. This is Tailspin. To my credit, you'll see by the end that I am pulling it out of the tailspin, but it's not fun anymore. Even though losing is fun, I've now had the fun of losing this map, and I'm ready to move on. I think for my next one, I'm gonna just find one with a great river, nice peaceful environment. Like the dwarves can just pick fruit off trees, nothing ever bothers them, and they can focus fully on hydrodynamics at all times. And then I can get weird with it. Right there, we moved past it, but that's my prototype minecart blender. And you can see the track is there. There's no minecart because I cannot figure out how to make my dwarves move it. Even though I've established a route, requested the cart, and made sure that a path is clear to that track area. The other thing, so this is my tomb area. There's so many dead. So if you see the list of dead on this map, it is like, it's gargantuan. This fortress has been powered by, maybe people don't know, but so migrants come in proportional to how increasingly wealthy your fortress is, and dwarves die when they die. They die when you make mistakes, or when something bad happens. So this map has been recently as I get trixier with it, has been a white-hot engine of just produce wealth, farm migrants, everybody dies, and we keep it going. And so, as we talked about in my happiness video, dwarves, nothing gets a dwarf more up in their feelings and upset at you than not honoring the dead. So when you do that, like I did, which you shouldn't, when you make the fortress a white-hot engine of fun, cataclysm, but like lots of money's being made, so migrants keep pouring in, a big sub-process of you managing the fort just becomes constantly engraving tombstones, like looking up, like who's dead, okay, who's a ghost, okay. Oh, by the way, because I was doing so much of this, so much like building coffins, building tombs, establishing the tombs, engraving slabs, okay, like who needs one, selecting it in the workshop. Because that became such a thing, I had to assign like a hotkey to it, and I also, what was the other... I think I even found a bug in one of the saves in this, I believe, if I didn't edit it out, is me finding a ghost that is listed in other as a ghost, but is not listed in the craft dwarf options for ghosts, or it's like he's mislabeled as not a ghost. So I've been honoring the dead on this map so much that I'm basically playtesting and I'm finding new bugs. So I'm tired of that. I'm going to start a new map. You know what, guys? This has been a really good summary. I got about 2 more minutes of footage. Let's power through. We can do it, guys. I gotta have 2 more minutes of notes. Definitely take this in any direction in the comments that you're interested in, because I covered a lot today, and I've made big mistakes in describing things to you guys before. Like my biggest one is when I've been open about this as a correction, but I described the merc as bite inflicted, and that I don't believe that there's any evidence for that. It does now seem that it was a surface contaminant affliction that I either did not see, although I was checking, or that is dust-borne and can like jump during physical conflict. So things like that, like just how the mechanics work. I'm doing my best to parse this the Matrix-like game, which it does have beautiful graphics now that it's on Steam, but still very much like just reading a wall of code. So I do get things wrong. If I ever describe anything wrong, I want you to correct me, and I'll pin it at the top. So keep an eye out. Okay, now I am exhausted and my voice hurts again. So I'm gonna cut this last. I think everything I talked about is in the footage. I think I proved everything I claimed. I mostly claimed that I was failing and flailing, so I've definitely proved that. All right, good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye. Goodbye. And I thought I would do a quick video about how to do a volcano embark. They're really fun. They're actually easier than normal embarks in a lot of ways, but they're really cool. And so you just need to be aware of some special unique advantages and challenges. So for advantages, pretty obvious. Instant, infinite source of heat right at the lip of the volcano. So for, those who may not know, forges, smelters, glass kilns, glass makers and kilns, that is, these all take a source of fuel, which you have to make from, you either have to make coke from stone products or you have to make charcoal from wood. And that's time intensive, it's resource intensive, and it's not infinite. But if you have a source of magma, you can park the magma versions of those items, of those, what are they called, workshops. You can do a magma forge, a magma glass maker, magma kiln, magma smelter. And those can sit right on the lip of your volcano and just infinitely, they don't need fuel. The magma is the fuel, and it doesn't run out. So that's an obvious advantage right there, of course. Now, major disadvantage, I would say, is the verticality of it. So in every volcano I've seen, it's basically a big, deep basin of magma that basically goes down more or less to the center of the earth, to the bottom of the map. But I've experimented with this now a little bit, and the interesting thing is that it is a finite amount of magma. So, there's no flow-in sources like you might find from a river or an underground lake. So if you poke a hole in the side of your volcano, you'll get this really cool spout of magma, that flows out over everything, but it will drain your volcano. And so those forges and everything that you just set up on the lip are now not going to be fed because the magma level has dropped a little bit. And of course, it's not a problem. You can carve down into the volcano and put the forges at the new level anytime. It's not a big deal, but just something to be aware of. The other thing that's kind of challenging is that you do have the source of magma, but if you try to dig into it at any point, the whole point of it is that it's a solid tube of rock that's completely full of magma. So if you try to get in and put a magma forge or any other workshop over that source, which is what it needs to be hovering over and receiving heat from below it. If you try to dip into it on any level except the tippy top of this glass of magma that's filled to the very top, there's probably going to be spills, there's probably going to be level issues at the top and things like that. So you really have to pick at it and be careful with it. So for starters, eventually I'll have to tap into the magma down in these lower levels. But for now, what I'm doing is just kind of making the verticality of this especially tall volcano easier on my dwarfs. And so that's why on the right you see, on the left side of the volcano is the Stairway to Heaven. So basically how this works, my embark was, for some reason, the wagon went up to the very top of the mountain, which was actually nice. That was ideal. I guess the dwarves knew what I wanted. They knew that I was going to want to settle around the lip of this volcano. But so we dug straight down, and then you'll see here, when we get to the ground level, the fortress kind of branches out on both sides so that there's easy access to both sides of the mountain. And on the right side, there's enough of a, it's not a cliff face, so the dwarves can just walk up, can climb the mountain on that side. And on the left side is my Stairway to Heaven, which is my 30 levels of staircase, basically. And just colonizing all around the lip of this volcano. We're already, I think, if I can get this fortress to thrive, the theme for this one is going to be like Spartan dwarves. We have Fluxstone. Oh, another advantage of settling near a volcano is that volcanoes often have kind of rich rock composition. So you'll find, maybe it's my imagination, but I want to say a little more gem, a little more rare metals, a little different distribution. Like we've created like a lot more lead than I anticipated. It's not in my stocks now because I turned it into lead cages for defenses. But yeah, a lot of lead and silver early on from like Galena. A lot of native copper. Who knows if this is specifically related to volcanic activity, but that's what I've noticed on this map. And so I think what I'm going to do is like a Spartan. I'm going to have all my dwarves training hard, and I'm going to actually really try to outfit them like all 3 levels of armor, really get into the squad mechanics and make sure that these guys are like Terminators, just metal-plated kill machines. So I mentioned that like verticality is more of an issue in volcano embarks because you have this magma surface that is usually above, the average ground level because it's, at the top of a mountain. So your dwarves, instead of, the instinct for dwarves is like you're going to press down into the earth, and you do want to do that in a volcano embark, but you also have to kind of honor the surface of the magma or not. I mean, I guess one way to embark. Leave in the comments if you embark in a different way on volcanoes than I do. But I mean, I guess you could also just immediately dig into the magma, drain it a little bit, and then have a pool down closer to ground level that you use for your forges. But you have to make that decision is the point. You're going to have an embark that immediately has accessible magma surface, but it's going to be at the very top of your map. And in my case, this is like a skyscraper volcano. I don't think I've ever seen elevation like 83 before. You know, usually I think across the whole map, it's like elevation 0 is usually a little below ground. You know, the like grass level is outdoors is usually maybe like 12 for me, somewhere around there. But this is like 60 Z levels up from that, from what it considers to be the flat elevation of the whole continent, as I understand it. So I definitely, it's been pressuring me because it takes a lot of time, especially to haul things up the mountain. It takes a lot of extra time. And so like I need to either make it quite easy to get to the top, or I need to bring the lava down, or I need to tap into it at a lower level. And I'm still kind of experimenting and thinking about all three of these. Let me know what you recommend if one of those is better overall. I'm sure long term, if you can have a sustainable way to tap into it at a much deeper level, that's definitely preferable. But yeah, we have flux-stone, we have plenty of metal, and we have infinite fuel for our forges. So I'm thinking like Spartan, I want to go heavy metal with this. I want these dwarves like very battle hardened, very well equipped. And yeah, who knows, maybe, you know, the people they capture get sacrificed to the volcano or something. I don't know, you know, pitting animals into magma is a thing that you can do. That's all I'll say. It exists in the game. Prisoners, animals, you can definitely pit them into magma, and then it's the volcano's problem, and they won't bother you again. I'll just say that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave in the comments if there's any other important considerations about embarking on a volcano that you think, you know, people should know about. Magma crabs, I almost missed talking about. So that's a big downside of embarking on a volcano in general, is that magma crabs live in magma and they will mess with you. They will come out and be aggressive at least a little bit, but I've never had too much of an issue with magma crabs. They're, you know, like they're like beasts, you know, they'll wander in, they might cause trouble. They might get somebody hurt if you're not careful. So just be aware of that. But yeah, hey, if you made it this far, please remember to like and subscribe. We actually lost a few subscribers when I did that creative writing video. So, you know, that hurt my feelings a little bit, but I understand, you know, that people subscribe when I'm doing good content. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for everybody who's staying with me, helping me support and make these videos. And I'll do my best to keep them coming. Thanks, everybody. I'll catch you soon.
Oh boy, I made such a mess this time, but I did collect a lot of good data, so jumping right in. This was a forgotten beast. It is a gigantic scaly firefly. A gigantic scaly... This is a bad start. A gigantic scaly firefly. It has 3 long curving horns. It belches and croaks. Around it is a cloud of poisonous vapor. Believe it or not, this is the least crazy thing you're going to see in this whole video. So I forgot to mention that it should be specifically in a fantasy style. It took a more minimalistic, and or in the bottom right corner, it took kind of like a very, especially realistic, or kind of like from a biology textbook kind of depiction, the sense of like it is belching. I said it belches and croaks, which is the original description from Dwarf Fortress. It does have a belch effect on virtually every illustration. It's arguable in the bottom right again, which is more, it's kind of striking out. But it got the cloud of poisonous vapor. That is a gigantic scaly firefly. So great. I forgot. That's my fault. I forgot to say that it was a fantasy creature, or it should be done in a fantasy style, so it looks a little like word art, but that's my fault. So great. Right off the bat, Bing AI, you know, it's been in the news, all this crazy OpenAI, Microsoft's intrigue and everything. We are covering it right now. The date is November 2023, and we are covering this via Dwarf Fortress, descriptions typed into Bing Image Create. I'm honestly excited. I'm glad you're all here with me. Let me see. Okay, next one. It is going to get weird, though. Okay, this one turned out good. This is, okay, a little palette cleanser, and it's going to be good going into what the issues we're about to see. Dwarf Fortress specifically says this guy has like striking light blue eyes and has like two-tone hair in the brown and gray that's specifically depicted. Honestly, they crushed it. I helped a little bit because I changed. So my prompt was fantasy painting of a human warrior wielding a whip, which, so in Dwarf Fortress, they would just call that a human lasher. So I kind of helped a lot on that one, to be fair, but you know, it was just one sentence. That's what I do. His hair is long, the colors of russet and gray. They got it. The eyes are aqua. They got it. They got everything. Beautiful. And this is a cool character. I would play a video game where this guy was the main character. This is beautiful. All right, this is where we get deep breath, everybody. Okay. So we switched over. I'm gonna even
probably edit that out.
So this is one of the best defenders. Honestly, I don't want to make this a political thing or anything, but this is a female dwarf, an elite wrestler. She is one of the greatest soldiers of my well-defended garrison, Dwarf Fortress. You'll see the prompt here. I did my best to translate exactly what she looks like into the Bing image crate, and I got blocked for that. They said unsafe image content detected. I didn't get blocked. No, they let me do more prompts after that. But this prompt that you're seeing on your screen was blocked. You see I got the little dog, another little artifact. When this video is in a historical archive, the initial error image was just a dog that seems to have broken some kind of a chocolate egg. I'm not even sure. And there's a mug in the foreground, but it says unsafe image content detected. Okay, let me read it out for more posterity. Prompt: a full body and pose depiction of a fantasy dwarven wrestler, female. I can see where that would trigger some flags maybe, but I had already tried 3 times and it had only given me shoulder up. And so a lot of things, I was trying to specifically depict the physicality of this bearded female dwarven wrestler, and I could see as I'm describing it out loud how this would trigger some red flags. But anyway, so I tried these prompts 4 times, and each time I asked for 4 attempts. And one of those times, Bing Image Create said, I'm not going to do that. And again, so just to read it, it's nothing wrong with it, I would argue. Prompt: a full body and pose depiction of a fantasy dwarven wrestler, female. She has long hair and a neatly trimmed dwarf beard. Her eyes are amethyst. Her skin is golden yellow. Her skin is pale and her nose is short. They said unsafe image content detected. And then after that, they gave me this. And we're going to cut to the next image. I would argue that's more. I would argue that's worse. And you see the prompt I slightly adjusted to get this, and this was one of the 4 attempts. This is the best I could get. For some reason, when I describe a mighty elite soldier, and wrestling is important in Dwarven culture, the only issue, and this is no even real, critique, but the thing that Dwarf Fortress and AI don't get about each other is that women have mighty beards, and that wrestling is really, really important. It's like the main combat style. It's their native combat style. So when I'm sorry, if I ask for a female dwarf and she's like a mighty wrestler and she's like the Hulk Hogan of female wrestlers and she has a big beard, Bing thinks I'm making some kind of fetish material. That's their problem. Okay, so this one we're back on track. The prompt was a fantasy painting of a swords-wielding dwarven warrior. His beard is braided and his mustache is combed. His head is clean shaven. This was an oversimplification of the original Dwarf Fortress prompt, which said specifically, let me find, his sideburns are clean shaven. It did, however, in a few of these actually give me specifically clean sideburns, so good on the AI. But I wrote his head is clean shaven, his skin is wrinkled, and his eyes are the color of brass. Nailed it. Perfectly. I will say, it kind of used the same trick as it did for the human swordswoman, who I was also pleased with how it came out. And they do kind of just stick a sword in the background of what is otherwise just a portrait. It's a little bit of a cheap trick, but it works. It works for swords fantasy characters specifically. All right, now this is an important one. For this batch, this is the only one where I managed to express to the AI that it's a dwarven woman with a beard. My prompt was a fantasy painting of the Baroness consort of a dwarven city. Clothes are suitable for that of royalty. This is me massaging the prompt a little bit to explain what Dwarf Fortress is trying to explain. So I said her clothes are suitable for that of royalty. Her long dark hair is tied in a ponytail. That's a direct, from the game itself. Her lips are thin and her skin is copper, also from the game, maybe parsed by me. She wears a neat dwarven beard on her face. I tried to just slip that in and hope that it paid attention. This looks like a Baroness consort to me. So if you're not as familiar with Dwarf Fortress, of course, as your town grows, if you impress the mountain home, which is the monarchy of your dwarven society, you may be able to appoint a baron and then a count, and then eventually the monarchy may even move to your fortress. In this case, this is a Baroness consort. So I had appointed a baron, and one of his lovely concubine-style consort brides is as described here. This is one of the ones where I think the AI really nailed it. That's genuinely what I think the game is trying to express her as looking like. All right, moving on. This was a fun one. So here's one where I said, you know what? The AI is being kind of lazy. All due respect, it works really hard. It makes 1,000 images that would take me a lot longer to paint and in not so much detail, but it tends to kind of cheap out until you've trained the AI, you know, until you've got your own little system going. It'll give you just kind of a general portrait of a guy or a lady standing there. It'll just kind of, it'll block it out once in a relatively neutral pose. So this is one where my goblin woodcutter was actually injured in a siege by goblins and he lost his leg. And so I said, I need you to draw me like a special, like not just a standard character. I need specifically this. You can't just modify it. It didn't do great. It did okay. You can see the bottom right. That's the only time it actually mentioned it. Kind of abstractly depicted the injury. I'm sure if I, you know, worked harder through iterations and had an AI model like I was training myself, I could get a lot better results. But again, this is just being AI's create image. So this is the best I could do. Prompt was a fantasy painting of a goblin holding a wood axe. His lower left leg is missing. And I capitalized missing to try to add emphasis. So I put his lower left leg is missing. His hair is long. He is skinny. His lips are thick and his eyes are wide set. His hair is stark scarlet and his skin is green. The AI doesn't seem to have a problem with doing my palette swaps. It'll give me whatever colors I want. It'll get the palette correct pretty easily. And I had to specify that he was holding an axe to give the idea that he was a woodcutter. And then even when I said his lower left leg is missing, it just ignored me 3 times because it just shot him from the waist up. It's like I just give out portraits mostly, unless you've trained me for something more specific. So the only one that abstractly depicted a missing leg was the bottom right. So that is the canon one. Ignore those other ones. And this guy now in my head canon does have a floating foot that he keeps nearby and he balances perfectly on the other foot as though that leg is not missing. And finally, we get to my favorite part. If you made it this far, this is the reward. We're going to talk about Gorlaks, which are my favorite race of humanoid creature in all of Dwarf Fortress. I love them so much. I think they're so adorable. If you look in the little image underneath where you see the actual Dwarf Fortress GUI setup, it says Onus Korebek, Onus Korebek, Gorlak Bard. That little picture, that's how they're supposed to look according to Dwarf Fortress. I love these little guys. Anytime that one visits I hate to, if you encounter them as hostiles in the caves, it's very sad because I love it. They're so adorable. But so here is from my first batch. I could not make the AI understand that it was both this weird little horrifying creature that I love and also a bard. So this is the first, didn't really work, but I would say that this is basically how I imagine a Gorlak in general. Picture a feral one that your dwarfs would have to fight. So the prompt was a fantasy painting of a bard character, which it ignored, described as follows: a small, round humanoid found wandering the caves deep underground. Most of its body is taken up by a huge, tusked mouth. The AI art kind of does like teeth as tusks, which I appreciate. I actually really like that. But you can see in the original Dwarf Fortress art, for the Steam version 50 point whatever, it has just a big mouth with 2 tusks on the end. But so not perfect, but I do like this interpretation. He's muscular, his skin is goldenrod, his eyes are red. You can see I like this design, but it did not capture the bard spirit, so I had to move on. We're moving on now. The one I circled here and marked with yes, that's what I picture for a Gorlak bard. That is a Gorlak bard. I think the top left, it took a whole elephant head because it said a tusked mouth, and I think the AI kind of, was like, oh, well, a tusked mouth, that's, to be fair, in the Earth, our reality, a tusked mouth usually does imply an elephant, so that's correct in its own way. And then it even extrapolated from that and gave it kind of like a Southeast Asian headband, which is really fascinating how it extrapolates. But the fact is, so for this prompt, all I said was a fantasy painting of a bard character. They must be carrying a musical instrument and wearing the vibrant clothing of a bard. That's where I finally insisted. It gave most of my characters a ukulele or some variant of a stringed instrument. In the bottom left he's playing 2 wind instruments at the same time, and he seems to also have an accordion under his arm. It's incredible, and he has a keyboard and a string instrument on his back. I mean, that's the king of bards for sure. The bottom right also has several instruments. The top 2 have what seems to be either a sleeping roll or kegs on their back and some kind of string instrument. I like the top right. I gotta be honest. That is exactly what I imagine. He has a tusked mouth. He has tusks that are like also a cute mustache, and his whole face is a mouth, which is what Dwarf Fortress specifically asks for. And he's a big yellow guy with red eyes, and he's very clearly playing a song and singing something. That is my boy. That is Onus Korebek. That is Onus Korebek, the Gorlak bard. And I'll leave you all with that. If you made it this far in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't get monetized. I don't monetized until 2,000 subscribers. It's incredible. YouTube's gonna take me off the channel for even mentioning this. Honestly, at this point, the AI is so good. I shouldn't have even said that. All right, I'm getting way too far on this. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch everybody in the next one. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dwarf Fortress Explained Poorly. Today we did something of a really fun
foolish mega project, and that is specifically that this map you're now seeing is a active living fortress, and the surface is now completely dominated by demons. And you'll see by the end of this footage, they immediately set fire to the entire surface of the planet, basically, and then spend the rest of their time up at the top Z level, up high in the sky, chasing ravens, chasing any other birds that spawn, chasing anything that's up there. But so if you were thinking of trying this yourself, we're going to go through how I did it, and I did it just for the purposes of this video. So I did it in a messy way, but we can also talk about ways to do it more sustainably. If you caught my last live stream, you saw that we were working towards this, and it's really gotten difficult. The devs have done a really good job where previously in earlier builds of Dwarf Fortress, you would basically just pop into the circus. What they did in the newer versions are they made the vein itself like much larger and packed with all kinds of goodies, more interesting things to find, and a lot of like little traps. It might spawn fire, all kinds of challenges. Again, you can check that live stream if you want to see how challenging it is, because I ended up not being able to do it after, streaming for like 40 minutes where I thought it would be an easy thing. But I did eventually crack through, and that's the footage you're going to see here. What we did stepwise is whenever you're breaching into hell, what you want to do is have a controlled room that the demons can then pour into, and it can be sealed off and locked so that they don't take over the whole fortress. I did have a little bit of a surprise you'll see in this footage. So the demons can eventually break down doors now. In earlier versions, they could break down doors, and then in the earliest versions of the Steam version, they couldn't for a while. But a locked door was basically like kryptonite. It was, they'd never break it down. And I thought that was still true, so I had a funny moment where the demons broke out. Because I wasn't watching them, I assumed the doors were invincible, and they weren't. So I had to go back, and then you can build a wall now. They still don't break down construction. So you just build a wall out past the doors, and then they're really locked in there. You want to have some kind of, either with floodgates or forbidden doors, and then eventually you want to wall off that whole area so that the demons are spawned, they're coming up from hell, but they are locked in that room. Now, once you have them in that room, that's where it gets interesting, because obviously if you breach into that room, they're going to do their pressure hose thing where they all just like fly through to anywhere that they can get to. So in my case, we have a lot of aquifers, we have a lot of caverns and things that are hard to dig a straight tunnel through. So I went up to the top right corner of my map, which I actually selected on purpose because the other corners were not as ideal for this, but it was basically almost straight bedrock. And what I managed to do was just dig a 2x2 staircase from the surface all the way down to the holding cell room that the demons were all now waiting in. I did have to patch it. It did still, even in like right in the top right corner, the most ideal situation to just make a perfect tube straight down, it did still like breach into a cavern, so I had to like build walls and, patch that up. We eventually got the tunnel, and then all you have to do is connect the demon safe room to that tunnel, and they will shoot straight to the surface. Most of them will. Some will just kind of wander around, but they'll all be kind of driven that way and make it to the surface. And I did this really messy, and we're going to talk about ways to do it safer. So I ended up, honestly, this fortress, I've been hacking it, so it's like glitchy. I've been playing it for so long, I got tired of it. I said, like, this is going to be the last thing I do on it. Although who knows, maybe I'll keep playing it now that it's even more interesting. So what I did to make a sustaining fortress where the demons have access to everything else was, you want to find a Z level where you can see every pixel, basically every XY coordinate, where you're sure that there are no other ways that the demons can sneak through. It's basically find the highest Z level that is like a very obvious bottleneck in your fortress, and then wall that off between Z levels. And the way that I say wall off, but you really want to floor it off. Just build floors on whatever it is. If it's a staircase, if it's a ramp or something, just build floors so that it's now completely separating the upper Z levels from the lower Z levels. And now you have a actual stop point that the demons will never be able to get back down towards your dwarves. Like I said, I did this really messy. I left all kinds of valuables on the surface. I left dwarves on the surface, frankly. And you don't have to do that because you can use burrows. I think I made a video about how to use burrows, but like there's a lot of ways that you can collect up your dwarves more carefully, make sure they're all in the right side, the side that's being locked down now as a safe room. But so wall off a appropriate Z level with floors, and you might lose a dwarf on the wrong side of that. Again, so I can't even speak to a way to do this safely without losing any dwarves, because I was throwing bodies at the problem, basically. And I think that you probably, from my experience, you probably are going to need to have a few sacrificial dwarves who are like the ones who build the final wall from, the wrong side, from the outside, or build a floor, and then they're standing on top of the floor after they're done building it, so they're on the wrong side. there's going to be a few things like that. You know, when you breach into hell in the first place, there's usually a sacrificial dwarf, at least, you know, like one is going to have to actually do the deed and then be in danger. But you can use burrows, organize your stockpiles, and do it a lot cleaner than I'm doing it. I honestly, just to prove the point, I'll probably keep playing this map just to show that it is self-sustaining. So my dwarves still have access, the ones who are lucky enough to be on the right side, still have access to like 3 caves and plenty of food, you know, plenty of water. The caves, you know, have lots of plant life, and we have farmlands in there, so it should be totally good. We lost a lot of stuff in terms of stockpiles I didn't clean up. And the thing that's probably going to shut this map down is like 100 ghosts now, because I did sacrifice a lot just to prove this point. But so yeah, I was pretty surprised. You're going to see in the footage towards the end, I'm not sure. I guess that a lot of the demons have fire-breathing power. A lot of the demons have fire-breathing power that, like, they're not afraid to use. You know, they'll shoot it at anything. But the woodland that my surface is composed of was completely decimated, incinerated. I've never seen a fire indoor fortress like this before. And I guess because there was just a bunch of demons just shooting fire everywhere. So, so yeah, it turns into a wall that just wipes all the vegetation off the surface. It didn't burn down any of my buildings, which is interesting. I guess that, I'm not sure if that makes sense or not, because I think I built, like, there's a trader's post out of wood that didn't burn. All of my structures were intact, which is nice. So yeah, you're just going to see lots of demons, and they don't really go back down. They don't like return to hell. So they're mostly all just kind of either sprinting directly at the surface, or they're slowly ratcheting their way in that direction, like they're moseying towards the surface, and it's pretty cool. I probably won't even get the alert if like traders come, or I'll probably get the alert when traders come, but then they will be immediately eaten by demons. Like I said, most of the ones that are free now, I was curious, I wasn't sure. I was like, are they gonna, when they get to the surface, are they going to go to the edge of the map and then despawn, you know, disappear and kind of either exist or maybe not exist on the larger overworld? But they do seem to be locked in to my map, so they can't escape, as far as I can tell. I've been tracking their numbers in DFHack, and it's been pretty consistent as they fly around, and especially as they fly, they seem to want to investigate the borders of the map. They get stuck on the borders and just kind of like patrol the edges, but they're not despawning, which means they're not leaving. And yeah, they're all just like flying up at elevation 40 or something, and then every time a bird spawns or anything gets, you know, within a few units within their line of sight, basically, they go crazy on it. And that's really fun. And all the dwarves that are on the right side of, I think you will see in this footage, I cut to the surface at one point and there's like 50 dwarves just like panicking and running around. Because again, I didn't do this carefully or efficiently, but you can do it much neater than me. I just wanted to prove that it could be done, see what would happen. And it turns out what happens is lots of fire, and then they just guard. It's an amazing guard system for the surface. In terms of sieges, of course, you'll never get another trader or anything ever again, at least not from the surface. Somebody said that you can get traders through the caverns, but I've never seen that happen. I believe that commenter, but I've never seen that myself. Oh, one interesting thing that I do show here at some point in the footage, I'm not sure how I'm going to clip this together, but it was funny. A forgotten beast actually spawned in, I believe, as far as I can see, it spawned in hell and then was immediately torn apart by circus clowns, by demons. And it put up a good fight. Yeah, I definitely, somewhere in this footage, there's a few seconds of me watching, but it does fight like 10 demons and then die. But that was just funny because I don't know if that was a glitch, or I feel like it must have spawned, it must count hell as a cavern that can spawn forgotten beasts when hell is discovered, because there's no way, the way that it spawned, there's no way that it could have come from a different cavern and then gotten into hell from there. So the fact that it was there in the first place means I think it couldn't have gotten there unless it spawned there. But so that's interesting. I didn't realize about that mechanism either. But yeah, so just like fun stuff. The other cool kind of thing is, I guess I could, now that the demons are on the surface, I just thought of this, I could wall off their way back down, and then I would have hell to myself. Hell would be empty, and my dwarves could. You can't really build down there, there's like rules, you can't really get down there too much. But I could have it to myself, had all the demons rush to the surface, and then blocked them up there. Because right now the tube is still connected, so they could technically, if their AI told them to, which it doesn't, but they could return to hell as it is. But I could block them out and then see what else I could do. I might keep playing this map, as long as it doesn't get too glitchy. Another interesting way to proceed if you wanted to make one of these yourself and then play with it, now that my dwarves have like a very limited safe place and the demons are kind of spread out, you can make it a game where you're continuing to develop the fortress. It's almost like a survival horror, because like a demon will randomly be close by and come to investigate while you're doing risky things. So you have to like really sneak the fortress larger and larger, and watch what they're doing and kind of strike when the iron is hot. Like in some of my older videos, we do this with like zombies or like undead situations on the surface. If there's like a weather effect or something that turns you into zombies, you have to judge very carefully when it's time to risk your dwarves out in the dangerous area and when it's time to just totally cloister and shutter them down. So you could do something like that now that the demons have control over all external spaces outside of the fortress. But I think that's all I have, guys. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year. 2025 was a special, strange time, and I'm sure 2026 is not going to be any better. Maybe it will. Who knows? Try to keep positive. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I read every comment. If you're an old viewer, you know that. I try to hit every single comment and write back to you. I do just like talking about this game. And yeah, thanks everybody. Have a good one. Stay safe. Hey everyone, good evening. Tonight I need your help. Now before we go any further, endgame spoiler warning, don't proceed if you don't want to be spoiled. Only have 3 minutes, so let me get this out. I am down in the magma sea, and they're really making it challenging. I think I always played, with the cheating tools that came with the lazy noob pack and stuff, and I've never actually had to do this legit. So let me ask. I've gotten the alert for the magma sea. I've gotten the alert for unobtainium. I'll still use a euphemism, just to be respectful. But so I got the alert that someone found a vein of unobtainium that's going to go straight all the way down. But I did not see where, and I don't know how to find it now, and it's blue like microcline or kimberlite, so I don't even know where to find this. I think it's somewhere in this lowest cave. Meanwhile, I've also been using water to dump onto the magma sea. I'm trying to brute force my way through one of these magma lakes, but I'm honestly afraid the layer of semi-liquid rock or whatever it's called, the magma flow stuff that you can't dig through any farther. It's pretty, you'll see, this footage is all just like the bottom 10 layers of my fortress. And I cannot seem to navigate around the semi-liquid rock to just straight dig down. I cannot seem to create a big enough obsidian plug through the lava lake. That's what I'm working on right there with water. And even if I did, how do I know that at the bottom of this floor it's not just more undiggable? God, I'm still forgetting what it's called. That semi-liquid rock. But so I'm trying to find that adamantium vein because that seems like the surest bet. But so please leave in the comments, is there any way to spot or to easily find an adamantium vein if you know it's somewhere on your map already, but you have lost track of it? Second question is there any way to actually quench your way and brute force through the magma lake? Because I guess I always used, the paint tile types was what it was called, and you could paint tiles, and I would just brute force my way through the magma lake to get a look at the circus. And now that I have to do it legit, I'm turning to you, my dear Dwarf Fortress friends. Okay, right there, what I'm indicating, that kind of looked like it might be a vein, but it looks like it's garnerite on the outside, and I also don't know how to get to it from here, but that might be what I need. It kind of looked like a vein. Please just let me know if I'm on the right track. Should I keep looking for a place to just dig through? Probably not. Should I try to quench through the magma sea or pump the magma off-site? Also seems like a bad idea. I feel like I have to spot this. And if I already forgot and stopped calling it unobtainium, I guess we might as well switch over. I got to find that adamantium vein. I think that's what it's going to come down to. So if you have any tips for that, thanks, guys. I'm not even going to do the like and subscribe spiel because you're helping me on this one. If you can help me, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Have a great night. Wish me luck. Hey gang, just some quick footage of my new setup. This takes place in a mirthful aquifer, so a little bit of a unique setup, but just to kind of show new players how you can take your first 7 dwarves and and make them into a grand fortress. So, you know, I've got one miner digging out our first entryway. We're cutting down trees. This is mirthful. I'm not sure if all mirthful environments are like this, but mine is incredibly rich forest. I have really no access to fish, but there are wild unicorn for me to hunt and just so much fruit and plant life. As I record this, actually, my population is up to about 40, and I mean, we have more plant and drink than we know what to do with. We trade for our meat and fish mostly, fish entirely. But yeah, here's me just setting up my first stockpile, sending the first mining dwarf in to make an egress into the mountain. And this is actually really interesting in bark because it is a light aquifer, which means that a lot of the stone will weep water. And that's been some interesting challenges. So I don't have a river. So what I've actually done is adapted this aquifer scenario to make my waterfall. So I have one room that fills with water from the water leaking stone, and then I just pull a floodgate, and that produces the waterfall that makes all my dwarves happy. We won't get into that here. Again, this is just the basic setup. These are our first 7 dwarves. 3 are happy, 4 are basically satisfied. We're building this first room and setting our first zones, our first stockpiles. This zone I'm setting up right here is for my manager. That's one of the first things you're going to want to do, because then you can set work orders. And there you go. I'm saving it as manager online. Set up your important nobles. At this point, post this video being recorded, like I said, I have about 30 dwarves. My sheriff is set up. And I never played with aquifers. I never really messed with them before. But this was a lot of fun. And it was really, really challenging. So this hill is like a magical, wonderful elven forest. And full of food, but the rock resists being mined. And so what I ended up doing was actually sending a second team down to the very bottom of the hill on my embarkment and probing around in there. And for a while I had 2 kind of probationary mini fortresses, and eventually I managed to snake through the aquifer and actually connect those 2. And again, since then, I'll show you in the next video, but I have a working waterfall purely from the aquifer. The aquifer works for me now. I don't struggle with the aquifer. I'm underneath it. We're digging as much as we like, and the aquifer produces water for my waterfall only. It's beautiful, but this is a really interesting environment. It's low savagery, just unicorns wandering around, plenty of good wood and fruit, and honestly, my dwarves, I don't know if it's because this is a mirthful environment, my dwarves are happier than ever. I think I might have planned this one a little bit better. Okay, so in the last video, several people noticed that I make my stockpiles in a very disorganized way, which really bothers more organized people. So my strategy for stockpiles is every stockpile that's indoors is set custom, and it will be set as all minus refuse and minus corpses, because those are the 2 things that rot and stink. Those things can only go outside, but otherwise every single stockpile takes everything that will not rot and stink underground. This results in a few people called it a yard sale style. People said it triggered them, and I respect that. And in fact, the reason that I'm starting this new embarkment is because I had to retire my last one because I had about 300 dwarves, and none of them could do any useful work because they were just wandering in these big circuits where they're like, okay, I guess I'll place this bed that was asked to be placed, 3 years ago. And then on the way they get, something interrupts them because it's a huge journey to the surface or wherever they want to place this bed. And then they get distracted and nothing gets done. And my society was in decline. It was decadent. And so I retired it. And I started this new one, and I'm going to try to be more meaningful and organized with this one. But that being said, I am still using my old stockpile system. So, best of luck in that not bothering you. What else? Okay, so this was me testing the aquifer, and probing aquifers is actually pretty fun because you really you have to do it in a kind of methodical way. You don't want to flood things, but it's good practice to think about. What are we doing here? We are digging, and you can see the water filling up from the aquifer behind it. And I say this as aquifers are different than I remember. Oh, yeah, so, I experimented with it a little bit, but at least light aquifers are pretty well balanced, and you can manage them. Smoothing stone will make them stop weeping, leaking water. Actually, in this fortress, I ended up just getting my miner out of there. I let that fill with water, and yeah, I only did. So the nice thing about Dwarf Fortress is, it'll stop and it'll double check with you anytime that there's a damp stone. So, there's no wrong way. You just have to try to find a way down. And I do eventually. I get under this aquifer, under this hill, and now my fortress is really, really cool because all the dwarves are happy. They live in this wonderful, mirthful environment, and there's 2 entrances, one at the top, one at the bottom of the mountain. And it just snakes randomly around these aquifers, and I feel pretty good about the security of it. And, like I said, I made it work for me. Now I have a room that just floods to supply my waterfall. So, I mean, it's pretty great. And I'm looking forward to this embarkment. I'm going to try to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to try to organize things a little bit better and have, like, different kind of, like, quadrants of labor. Because I definitely, my society from the previous, if you look at my other videos, that one from the sand plane, that people mentioned was really disorganized. It did start to spin itself apart around 250 dwarves, where like I would put it in an order and it would never get done. It would be on this, it really felt like my dwarves were moving in circles and interfering with each other more than making stuff happen. So here you're watching me struggle with this aquifer. Rest assured, it does work out, and I'll show you in the next video. Actually, this fortress is arguably healthier and stronger than even the last one I showed, and I'm going to try to keep the organization a little better. By the way, anybody, if you see me making mistakes, like, let me know. A lot of people have left comments and have taught me stuff already. You can be a leading expert in Dwarf Fortress globally and still be kind of an amateur in the Dwarf Fortress community. It's that special kind of deep skill set. So definitely, I've actually, I've been enjoying from the community. A few other people have made like summaries of like what different metals do and how to smelt, and that's been really useful. I hope everybody's having fun. If you're getting frustrated with Dwarf Fortress, they dropped, for the Steam version, they dropped losing is fun, but that used to be the motto. Deep lore. Losing is fun used to be the motto. So, I hope everybody's having fun with it and not getting too stressed. It is just a wild adventure every time I boot up, and I'm still really loving it. So, thank you. Hey, thanks to everybody who subscribed. Looks like my video's ending. But thank you so much to my subscribers, supporters, commenters who teach me stuff and who keep me motivated to make these. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, I'll show you this fortress next time. It's going great. Aquifers are no big thing. I don't know, this is a light aquifer, but light aquifers are no big thing. I'll catch you guys next time. All right, good night. All right, gang, we are back. I got a new gaming laptop, which does actually seem to render crisp, clean Dwarf Fortress footage again. The footage you're seeing is from my new fortress. It's the same one covered in recent videos, so I'll have to think of ways to get like a little spooky with it. I'll have to build something twisted. The most interesting thing from this fortress is honestly that I have a legendary citrine bucket. All right, here's what I really wanted to talk about. So there is a subreddit for Dwarf Fortress stuff, and I'm always hesitant to send people to Reddit. It's a dangerous place. This subreddit's really, really good, and I saw a story that cracked me up so bad. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it again, but it was in the last few weeks. It should come up if you search for it. I'm going to do my best to do it justice here. And if I find it later, I'll post it in the comments. But basically, somebody had built this incredible, like, Dwarven engineering, more than I could do. You've seen my videos where I do, like, crazy minecart circuits, flood rooms, multi-stage lever waterworks, like, powered gear shafts. Like, I'm a decent Dwarven engineer, but this guy blew me away. I can't even describe all of the, like, nuances of it. So he has a necromancer trap. So he's just trapped in a room. I think he might have food. Or maybe necromancers don't need food, but he has a way where there's just a necromancer in a room, and he has lines of sight to other rooms he can't get to. And he is a specific type of necromancer that summons, and this has been patched apparently, so this kind of breaks the whole thing down. You can't quite do this build anymore. I'm bearing the lead. So the premise, this machine, is to generate like legendarily fine mash. I forget. There's like food grade qualities, and this is like a mince is what it's called. It's meat that is minced so finely that it's like it's legendary level. It's called like exquisitely minced meat or something like that. And it gives dwarves happiness because it's top quality food. It's like meat puree you could never imagine. So how does the necromancer tie into that? That's a good question. So apparently, before this little bug was patched, there was a specific necromancer type that would spawn. It wouldn't even it didn't need carcasses to start, but it would specifically spawn like a spirit that could then be disrupted pretty easily, but it would leave behind remains. It would leave behind like meat remains. I might be getting those details wrong. I'll try to find you guys that link down in the description or in the comments. Necromancer was in basically a startle room. It was a room that would like flood with water or something, that would do something that would startle the necromancer. And every time the necromancer is startled, they summon one of these ghoul creatures out of thin air, basically. And their only lines of sight were controlled rooms that would then super pulverize that ghoul. And then it also had like a regurgitation system where the meat would go back, end up back at the top to be remashed infinitely until the dwarves were ready to collect it. And so it was constantly running. The necromancer is chilling, has nothing to do, gets startled, spawns a ghoul spirit type creature that, again, the part that was patched is that it was creating matter out of nothing, basically, that it was like a spirit that came out of nowhere, but then left like a meat-based corpse. And again, this is Dwarf Fortress explained poorly, so, I'm doing my best here. And then it was a constant, revolving mincer for all the meat that was spontaneously being generated by these necromancers as they're continually startled. And the result was basically the dwarves had a huge room of, exquisitely, I don't even know what the equivalent would be, like pate, where it's been run through a blender and it's like eating a cloud, like whipped cream of meat. Yeah, the dwarves were all eating it. They were happy. That's just news from my dwarfy week. That was the coolest thing I saw this week. Okay, here's something that you'll see in this footage. So now if you watch a dwarf working on something, the easiest example is if they're fighting or they're training, you can go to their skills, then go to their combat skills, and you can actually watch every experience point accumulate. They added these in the recent versions, they added these experience bars that are detailed to the iota, detailed to the number. So some of this footage towards the end, I imagine, will be a training session, and you'll see the observation, discipline, fighting, wrestling, striking, dodging. You'll see each one go up in real time as they do each thing. It's kind of cool. The ability to watch every experience point, I think, is going to give a lot of min-maxers a lot of good data to work with. And it's just interesting too, if you're a new player, to be what is this dwarf doing? What are they getting better at? What kind of skills apply to this kind of activity? But so yeah, it's spooky season. I'm going to try to get weird with this current fortress that you're seeing here, because it's really thriving. It's becoming one of those ones where it's visitors come from all over, entertainers and soldiers come and they just want to live in our fortress because the happiness is so high. I'm not even hacking it. It has such natural aquifers and things like that dwarves are constantly getting waterfall baths. Constantly. They're living in mist that improves their mood. And migrants are pouring in. We're doing great. And even set on hard enemies, again, with no cheats, we take enemies down pretty quick. Maybe one or two get injured. But I'll try to do something spooky with it. I'll try to tap into the circus or something even more insidious. I'm not sure. Maybe you just build a justice system that's really, really dark and get some true crime stories out of this fortress. Let me know what you think in the comments. No undead whale. There's not enough ocean on this one. We can't do giant undead animals. It's also not a cursed embark, but I take it as a challenge. We could build some shrine to a dark deity. That's what we can do is we can build a huge temple to the creepiest god that the dwarves worship. I know a lot of times it'll be the god of death and YouTubers. Maybe we can find a god of that and get everybody, have an inquisition. There we go, I figured it out. Next video, I'm gonna try to do an inquisition where the darkest god worshipped by my dwarves takes over the whole fortress. All right, nice. All right, good brainstorming session, everybody. If you made it this far in the video, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. It all really helps and encourages more Dwarf Fortress videos. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, know what I'm saying? But yeah, thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch everybody in the next one. Alright guys, hopefully this audio doesn't suck too much because I am reporting from the front lines of I've actually now tried the siege update. I built a bolt thrower. There is some stuff you're going to want to know. If you haven't built one yet, it is going to be challenging in ways that you did not expect. We're going to talk about that. This is a new siege weapon in Dwarf Fortress. It is distinguished by the fact that you can swivel it. It's like a turret. It's basically a machine gun turret. And you can swivel around, you can do 360 degrees with it, which is pretty nice. No other siege weapon, I don't believe, lets you do that. You have to station it, and then it's planted in one direction. But bolt throwers can hammer bolts into the enemy in any of the cardinal directions. How do you build one? What you need a chain. You need bolt thrower parts, which are a specific, every siege item has like a specific siege part that has to be built in a siege workshop, which is a special workshop, of course. So you need bolt thrower parts. You need a chain, which you can build at, you know, a mechanic, I want to say, or maybe a craftsman. I'm not sure what makes chains. You know, you should have all the workshops up already. Get yourself a chain. Get yourself bolt thrower parts from the siege workshop. Get yourself a bin. This is where I had to troubleshoot all afternoon. We're going to talk about bins. Mechanisms. You need mechanisms, because mechanisms are what run any machine, of course. So once you have chain, mechanism, bin, and bolt thrower parts, you are hypothetically ready to go. But of course, you're not completely ready to go, because bins are famously a very buggy, very difficult to use container, to the point that I think a lot of Dwarf Fortress players, I think a lot of them will tell you, don't even build bins, because as soon as you build bins, dwarves will take any kind of item and they'll fill the bins with those, and then first of all, now you don't have an empty bin to actually build your bolt thrower, but you now have a bin that is full of valuable things, which, while saving stockpile space, introduce you to about a dozen bugs where dwarves will not be able to find things because they're just checking the stockpile and they are not sub-searching within bins. So I ran into this all afternoon today. I built about 50 bins and dwarves kept being like, okay, cool, I have a bin. I'm going to organize things within it. So it took me, I had to build about 70 bins before there were actually empty bins to build a bolt thrower. The bin, of course, holds the bolts. And we're going to get into that. It's very cool. Bolt thrower is basically like a gun. You load it, you aim it, you shoot it, it obliterates whatever's in front of it. So dwarves will try to fill the bins with things immediately. There are ways, there are very like touchy, specific, and you really have to be aware of the bugs and the nuances. You have to get on the Dwarf Fortress wiki. I always avoided bins. Like, bins are so annoying. I'm honestly a little disappointed that I had to build these. But, because it's going to mess up my item management for everything else, but whatever. You can set stockpiles if you're an advanced player, set stockpiles so that it builds a specific stockpile of, like, empty bins, and then no other stockpiles, like, allow the use of bins. It's pretty complicated. I ended up just building, like, 70 bins, and then the last 20... or, you know, the last 10 went into actual bolt throwers because they were empty. Because we built so many bins that the dwarves didn't need any for organizing. That said, once you have the bolt throwers, they are stationary. You can swivel them all around, which is very cool. I haven't figured out how to, it lets you set a resting position, but I haven't actually had success getting the resting position to, like, be locked in. It seems like the dwarves don't respect it, or maybe the platforms that these bolt throwers are on are not right for the dwarves to, like, walk around it. I don't know. But it is a little hard to set the actual direction. But then you have 4 settings for the bolt thrower, where you can load it with ammo and leave it alone. You can completely leave it alone, just do nothing with it. Most bolt throwers you're going to want to have set as, like, load them with ammo and then leave them alone, which is the third of 4 options. I found out that if you tell them to train with the bolt thrower, or even to fire on enemies when there's no enemies, that a dwarf will sit there, and if you tell them to train, they will waste bolts. Which, by the way, major thing that I discovered, it does seem that bolt throwers specifically destroy the bolts. So if you use the bolts in a crossbow, what happens is you can go collect the bolts because they weren't, you know, decimated on impact. But apparently the bolt thrower will decimate bolts, and it shoots a bolt every, like, quarter of a second. So you will go through 50 bolts in no time with nothing to show for it if you're, you know, just training a dwarf to operate it, or, you know, if they're a crummy shot during a siege. Yeah, don't set them to fire upon enemies, even though that seems like it might be nice to set, you know. I imagine the dwarves would, like, go and man it when there are enemies, but it turns out they just stand there and they wait for enemies. So set it to just load, and then dwarves will load the bolt throwers in batches of, like, 25 bolts, and then they'll leave it alone. And then when you want to train them, or if there's a siege, then the dwarves can man them, and they do fire like machine guns. It's really cool. You will lose bolts that you fire, so just be aware of that. Otherwise, it's very cool. Next time, as soon as I have a siege, I will show that footage, show how they actually do. I feel like I'm getting there because I've set enemies to hard, and I've been trading and, you know, showing off my wealth. And as I said in my last video, I am like right next to a huge goblin empire. So it should be any day now. I'm getting lots of forgotten beasts and, you know, thieves and skirmishers. So it's any day now. But I'll show that footage when I get it. I think that's all I want to talk about bolt throwers. Now I'm going to kvetch. I'm going to like complain about, I now have 50 dwarves in this new map. And 25 of them are children brought by migrants. And so if you play Dwarf Fortress, you know, kids can do a few basic things. They can clean, they can haul, but they can't do anything that you like really need, like mining or chopping wood or fishing. Or I think kids can do plant gathering. I don't think they can even smooth stone or anything. It's very annoying. They have like cooldowns. Anytime they do something useful, they have to like play and use their imagination. I have considered a Pied Piper situation where I lure them all into a Dwarven Atom Smasher and I'm just rid of it. And then I use DF hack to fix all the parents' moods because all the parents would be badly traumatized by that. I would also have to deal with the ghosts of the children. There would be 25 child ghosts haunting everybody. But honestly, I could use a good siege to thin them out. I didn't expect this. I don't know why my migrants are so bountiful and fruitful and they're multiplying, but like, it's becoming a problem. I've got dwarf children making legendary artifacts, but very complicated ones. I had one where they wanted skin and bone and specifically rock blocks and rock boulders, and then they just made like a ring or something. They made something very simple where I was like, why did you need all that? I've got other child dwarves like climbing into trees, they're getting stuck, they can't get down. It's very frustrating. It's basically a daycare map while I'm trying to prepare for a siege. I will let you guys know how all that goes. I imagine I'm a cruel and efficient god when it comes to Dwarf Fortress, so I imagine a lot of these kids are gonna get scattered to the winds. I don't know, we'll see. If they can grow up fast enough or I can get more adult migrants, then I'll tolerate it, but it's starting to piss me off, to be honest. All right, I don't know where I'm going with this. That's all I have for this week. If you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. It all really helps the channel. I'm still not monetized, if you can believe that. Thousands of watch hours, but YouTube just won't do it for me. Until I get like a big, I need like a watch hour boost, they're saying. So I'm still working on, I'm gonna do a comedy cut of all 90 Dwarf Fortress Explained Poorly videos, where it's just me being as stupid as possible across all those 90 videos. That should be a good hour-long video, and I hope people will enjoy. Thank you guys for joining me. I will catch everybody in the next one.
All right, my friends, we are back. We are back with another Dwarf Fortress video, and even better than that, we are back with a little bit of AI experimentation to see what kind of abstract, crazy things Dwarf Fortress can throw at us, and what that might look via automated image generation. I made a few videos like this, you know, maybe 6 months back. I also think this might be a good time to check in on the state of AI image generation. Not too much better since we last checked, although I will say that I had to massage the prompts a little bit less. This time, I honestly just typed in exactly what Dwarf Fortress said for the creature description. You know, in the original ones, I talk about like how if it says something kind of poetic, like beware its noxious gas, in the original ones, I would say, like, please depict it with a cloud of noxious gas around it. I didn't do that this time. This time, honestly, I was pretty lazy. I typed in exactly what the prompt is exactly what Dwarf Fortress says. So these are like one-to-one image translations. So with that said, let's jump in. This first one is a slug demon. As you can see, on the left is going to be the original Dwarf Fortress description, as well as the original depiction using, you know, the graphic, the icon art, and the full description. On the right is what Bing Image Create thinks when I tell it this. What we have here is a huge feathered slug. It has wings and it appears to be emaciated. Its brown feathers are patchy. Beware its poisonous vapors. So it got kind of like rough looking. I gotta say, it kind of nailed this one because it got that it's a slug, that it's a feathered slug, which is kind of a weird idea. It even got patches. You know, the feathers look kind of rough and I would say patchy. And it is even, there's like a little smoke or gaseous effect, as well as it looks like a slime effect. So I would say that it nailed that. That is exactly what a slug demon probably looks like. Feathered slug creature with poisonous vapors coming off of it. 10 out of 10, I would say it nailed it. It looks both slimy and avian. It's perfect. All right, next one. A little more classic of a demon. You're going to see some themes, actually. Leave in the comments if you know, is there any way, like, are there different, how do I want to say this? Are there different, like, collections of demons? Like, I got a lot of salt demons. You're going to see 3 different salt demons in this one. I would say that's pretty standard. I would say that every time I breach into hell, the demons are all pretty much uniformly the same compared to other maps. But leave in the comments if you know about anything that can, like, influence what kind of demons you get. I don't think there is. They tend to be made out of ash or soot or fire or salt.
disproportionately. There's a lot of salt creatures. But with that said, this one is a devil of flame, a huge quadruped composed of flame. It has wings and it has a gaunt appearance. I would say that this nailed it. It made it like a devil and a quadruped, and it's made out of flame, so it got everything. It got the wings as well. So it got basically everything. I would say the gaunt appearance, it didn't really translate. It didn't know what to do with gaunt appearance. So that's okay. You know, it looks pretty beefy to me. But so that's a pretty good one. I mean, it looks cool. It definitely looks like a demon. It's the kind of thing that would come up out of hell to mess with you. All right, moving on. This is another one where I was pleasantly surprised with how many details it got. So that's another thing. I would say when we last did this experiment like 6 months ago or however long, it might have even been a year at this point. Maybe time is just flying for me. But a lot of times I would have to massage the prompts to make them a little easier to understand for the AI. And then also, if it didn't know what to do with something, it would just ignore it, or it would add it as text. It would like have like garbled text in the background that just said what I said. But this one, I would say I've been putting the prompts in directly, and even weird things like having external ribs, you can see. It actually nails that. It figures out external ribs. That's another thing, like in addition to being composed with salt, I would say a lot of these demons tend to have exposed ribs. That's like a pretty common thing that gets added on. You'll see, I think, two in this video that have, or maybe even 3 that have exposed ribs. But so I was pleased with this. So this one is a slate gray monster. Slate gray, it got that. It is like a slate gray. A gigantic pterosaur probably. A gigantic pterosaur with external ribs. It has a fat, bulging trunk, and it has a bloated body. Its slate gray scales are blocky and set far apart. Beware its webs. So it got webs. It put webs in the background. I would not say its scales are set far apart necessarily. So it kind of ignored that. But I'm not sure what to do with that either. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I would say that the scales are kind of blocky, so that works. It got the external ribs, which I was impressed with, because that's like a weird description. But I figured it out. It does have a fat, bulging trunk and a bloated body. So this one nailed it. I'm actually going to look up real quick. I'm going to pull up what a pterosaur is. There's a few creature descriptions it uses that I don't even know what that is. Okay, so a pterosaur, you'd have to look this up on your own if you are not familiar, but it's not quite a pterodactyl, but you've seen this one before. It's in like Jurassic movies, Jurassic Park kind of movies and stuff. It's like really bird-like. It does not have arms in addition to its wings. So that's, the AI kind of cheesed that, because this guy has like little meaty kind of T-Rex arms and then also has wings, and that's not what a pterosaur actually looks like apparently. But I didn't know that off the top of my head either. But so the pterosaur has like from its shoulders just has these 2 big kind of like jointed wings. So, not perfect. This one's like 7 out of 10 maybe. All right, this next one is kind of cool, pretty cool. This is a white devil, a very large mite composed of salt. It has large mandibles and it appears to be emaciated. Again, it doesn't know how to do gaunt or emaciated apparently. But I would say that this is a demonic, devil-like, super large mite made of salt with very large mandibles. So I would say that this is a pretty good one. I like that it kind of went crazy with the eyes. It just put eyes all over it, but I kind of like that. That's kind of cool. Another thing I noticed, so for all the creatures that are meta, the way that Bing Image Create works is it'll give you 4 versions, and in this case I chose the best one for each one. One thing I noticed is that the AI will kind of like recursively refer to itself as it touches things up. So in a lot of the ones that are made out of salt, it interprets that then as them being made out of snow or covered in snow. So it gives like a snowfall or like a very icy effect to some of them. You'll see that, or, I might have taken those out because I use the best and most accurate one for each one. But you will, if you try this yourself, you will see that a lot of times the AI will get like stuck in its own ideas of what it's already made. And it'll like forget that it's doing salt and start doing snow. But I mean, I guess you could, if you really wanted to use your imagination, you could argue that like, it's so salty that salt is raining down around it, but I'm giving it probably too much credit on that one. All right, this next one is a lizard fiend, a towering lizard with external ribs. It has thin wings of stretched skin and it undulates rhythmically. Its goldenrod scales are oval shaped and overlapping. Beware its webs. So this is like what I was talking about, where if it doesn't know what to do with something, it will add like weird lore ipsum. It'll add like weird nonsense that just kind of prints that text in the background. You can see in the corners here, it says like towering of statistical ribs, a mitigible. It has all this nonsense, but you can see like beware its webs. It didn't know what to do with that. Things it did get right. It is towering. It does have external ribs again. It's very common for the demons in Dwarf Fortress, and the AI got that again, external ribs. I would say thin wings is correct. Stretched skin is correct. no undulation. It can't really do motion. AI tends to mostly do static images these days, unless you're using one of those video creation things. But even then, I would say, right now the video creation stuff is getting better with like motion and things like that. But I would say that's still a challenge that it's overcoming. A lot of what you'll see with like video creation AI is like, it'll be mostly static and it'll just kind of like rotate itself. Like the creature or the person will just kind of like look around to show that it's not two-dimensional, but like in terms of actual fluid motion, that's still a challenge that AI is working through. But where its webs, it totally wiped out on. It didn't do that. Its scales are indeed goldenrod, but they are not oval-shaped or overlapping. It just kind of did whatever it wanted with the scales. So, but I would say that's probably about right. That's again a good place to start on what one of these demons would look like. All right, here's another one that's basic. Very, very similar to the earlier giant salt mite that we saw. Again, I don't know if that's just weird luck for me, but I got a lot of salt bugs. Again, it did like its own crazy thing where it has like a crown of eyes all over its face, which I think is cool. That may be, okay, so the one thing I did add to the prompt for each of these was I told it to do it in a fantasy painting style. So maybe the eyes all over the face for a monster, that's something it's getting from the fantasy painting style prompt. Each of these I just put like a fantasy painting of, and then the Dwarf Fortress description. This is one where it kind of gives it like a snow effect because I think, and also like icicle effects, because I think it forgot halfway through the prompt that it was doing salt, and it just started drawing from like snow creatures instead. Not even that it forgot, but like it was pulling, the way AI works is it just pulls from things that it already has access to. So I think when it drew this, it was like, okay, this is basically a snow beast because I've never drawn a salt beast before. But so this is a banshee of salt. It is a very large 8-legged Dimetrodon composed of salt. It has a bloated body. Okay, so that's way more than 8 legs. It did kind of just give up and go like geometric with it, which is cool, but that's not right. And again, I have to look up, just like pterosaur, I have to look up what a Dimetrodon is really quick. Okay, so that's the one, and again, you can look this up on your side, but it basically looks like a big, tough lizard dinosaur, and it has a big fan on its back. So this is actually a complete failure. The AI did not know what to do with this, because it is supposed to be a Dimetrodon, which is, again, is like a fan, kind of a fan-backed lizard, with 8 legs specifically. So if it had either understood or cared enough, it would have pulled this dinosaur, added 4 more legs to it, and then made that out of salt. It instead did another just big salt mite. So this is a cool creature, but complete failure, 0 out of 10. Maybe 1 out of 10, because it did kind of do a salt effect that might also be that is probably also an ice effect. But so it gave me a snow mite when it should have given me a salty dinosaur. So this one, total wipeout. And all 4 images were like this. They were all variants on this same creature that it basically made up. All right, so here we have a firefly devil. It is a very large, hairy firefly. It has a short trunk, and it is ravening. Its clear hair is very curly, beware its webs. This one, it didn't really give me anything except that it did cover a rough firefly's body with hair. I will say, this is one where we see like some of the earlier issues with AI that are mostly solved now. Like you see that like one eye, it like drew one eye and then it drew another eye on the rest of the head, but it doesn't look proportionally correct. It's like its whole head is covered in eyeball material. And then it's got 3 antennas sticking out, which I didn't specify. So that's literally just it guessing. You remember that was the biggest thing with like early AI was like extra fingers on the hand, where it would start drawing something, but it wouldn't remember like what it had already drawn. So it would just keep adding antenna or just like the eye material texture all over the face. So like that head is totally messed up, doesn't look right at all. I will give it credit, it did cover a firefly, it made a gigantic hairy firefly with, I guess you could argue that's blonde hair, I guess you could argue it's clear with like light shining through it. Otherwise it didn't really it didn't get the webs, it didn't get the short trunk, and it has no depiction of ravening, so, it's a 5 out of 10, that's not great. Passable, not great. Next one is a white brute, a very large pig composed of salt. It has large mandibles and it has a bloated body. This is another one, again, where it did a great job. I would say, I don't know what, mandibles makes me think of like a bug, so I don't know if it modified the mouth enough to get mandibles. It did give it very large tusks, and also like ram horns up top, like 3 ram horns. I'm actually noticing as I look at these that, yeah, it's like, especially with fantasy creatures, the old AI errors will come out where it'll like misnumber, it'll like lose track of how many it's already done and keep adding them. This is another one where it started to do the salt effect, but then it just gave up and made it a snow effect, because you can see there's snowy mountains behind it and snowy fields below it, and all the what should be salt is like icicles like dripping down. So it gave me like a snow boar, but that's like a 6 out of 10. That's like most of what I asked for. I would say that's probably pretty close to what this demon would look like. Take the background out because it should be salt, it's not snow, but yeah, not bad. This one I like. This is cool. So the Soot Brute is an enormous blob composed of ash. It has 3 long curly tails, and it has a gaunt appearance. Beware its poisonous vapors. So it got the blob of ash. I really like that face mostly. I feel like that face is very evocative of what like a demon made completely of ash would look like, where the eyes would kind of like float around and the mouth would be amorphous with like ash drool falling out of it. I'm not sure if it got 3 tails. It's hard to tell because the whole thing is, again, a blob of ash. So, I mean, that's a pretty hard prompt. I'm going to say that this one is pretty dang good, is probably what it looks like. It didn't really get the 3 curly tails, and it didn't get the gaunt appearance at all, but I like that one a lot. This might be one of my favorites, is the Soot Brute. That's something I can really imagine, like, coming out of hell to ruin a fortress. Now, this is an interesting one. So the Spirit of Ash, this is a very unique one. Another ash one. Soot and ash are very common with all the demons. This is a very large chinchilla, twisted into humanoid form, composed of ash. It undulates rhythmically. Again, it didn't get any motion, but that is a large chinchilla. Oh, no, it completely missed twisted into humanoid form. So, so this, what I got was really just like an ash-composed chinchilla that is giant. It does, no motion again, no undulation is depicted. And then also the fact that it's twisted into a humanoid form means that, it should be on 2 legs, which it technically is, but only in the way a chinchilla would normally be. It should be like properly bipedal with like in the shape of a humanoid. So it didn't really listen to me about this. I would say this is not what it looks like. I imagine something actually much creepier because, imagine like a rat. What am I trying to say? A vermin-like, no, what is the word? A rodent-like face on a human body, basically, with maybe like rodent-like claws, and it's all made of ash and it's dancing towards you. That's like, something really out of a horror, some kind of ashen rat man dancing towards you. But so this was kind of a failure in terms of actually depicting it. 3 out of 10, because it did get a giant ash chinchilla at least, oh well. And then this is the last one, the Fiend of Snow. This is actually snow instead of salt, so it got that right finally. A giant quadruped composed of snow. It has a short tail and it squirms and fidgets. I would say that tail is long, so it didn't really pay attention to the motion directions or to the tail size, but otherwise that is a fiendish quadruped made of snow. So, maybe 7 out of 10 for that one. That's about right. And that's all I have for everybody today. I hope you enjoyed, get a sense of what all the clowns, if you've never been down to the circus yourself, these are the kinds of clowns, the kinds of demons that you can expect to find. It's usually some variant like this. Again, leave in the comments if you found any, if you've ever encountered a demon that's unlike anything that you've seen here. I'd love to hear about it. And feel free to like and subscribe, and I will catch everybody in the next one. I just got this giant monster made of snow attacking me. I said, let's do this live. Let's see how we do. My cheat's off, so this is a fair fight, because I was playing with a Fast Dwarf previously. So Fast Dwarf 0, 0. Command is finished successfully. I'm going to try to play by play this. So let's see where this guy is, and we might get wiped out. I don't know, that's what I mean by we're doing it live. So let's follow him, see what he's up to. He's right here. He just, and he can fly. He can fly. Yeah, it has wings. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure my archers are trained up enough, but let's try. Now that we have the save split, we can try a few things and just see how it goes. What happened? Do you get eaten by a cat? A cave crocodile? Oh, I'm sure that didn't happen. Let's see. Did he immediately die and get eaten by a cave crocodile? Because yeah, look, I ordered fast. Okay, well, all right. Well, let's still make this a Dwarf Fortress video. What the heck was that? I have my settings. I can't believe that happened. Hard enemies. And that's been the first one. And he died. It seemed like he floated into a cave crocodile, which is now named. So I think that this cave crocodile literally just killed that snow beast immediately somehow. That is very weird. Leave in the comments if you know what the heck that was about. Because, yeah, it's usually, if you're new to this game, I'm sure none of you are, it's usually like a big fight. You lose like 15, 20 guys. It blasts for like several minutes. You have to do some tactics, and it literally floated out of existence unless it is hiding somewhere. But here, can we check this thing's kills? Look, holy, I'm going to screen cap that. This cave crocodile killed a forgotten beast. Alright, well now it becomes about capturing this crocodile, because that's amazing. There's your story, there's your scoop. Is normal cave crocodile took down forgotten beast in one strike. I wasn't even fast enough to see, yeah, no injuries or anything. I wasn't even fast enough. I was going to do play-by-plays, like, oh, this guy's fighting with a sword, he's doing a good job, he's getting hurt, now he's too hurt. I'm really blown away by that. That is pretty incredible. Alright, so this cave crocodile is probably terrified while in conflict, so literally, and afraid after experiencing trauma, so it killed it in one hit, and literally, it didn't even want to fight. Oh, I keep forgetting how to do this, hang on a second. So, traps, cage traps, use whatever. And we're just going to try to get a lot of cage traps and see if I can get this thing captured. Maybe we can even train it. That's an incredible, and I think it said it was like 100 years old. That's incredible. The only danger is if it, I saw it run this way, is if it starts attacking things. But it seems to flee from dwarves. It doesn't want any conflict. That's awesome. Alright, we're going to keep an eye on that. And hopefully, is it a she yet? Hopefully, yeah, she. Oh, 27 years old. Named by the dwarves Lord Stirs. Rititskara. That's badass. And we're going to try to safely and humanely capture her and have her join the family. Because that's cool. And like you saw, my enemies are set to hard, so... And now my cheats are off even. My dwarves are working slowly. Actually, we can speed that up. Again, now that... I wanted to show you a fair fight, but we're trying not to fight this thing, so it'll actually make it less likely for there to be conflict. If the fearful crocodile just has dwarves, like, zooming past, there won't be a chance for, like, any misunderstandings. You know, if a dwarf does get attacked, it can, like, flee. But so, I'll give you a tour. So, this is actually a really good map. It's got... all colors of sand. It's got, you can see this is my waterfall drainage ditch. It's got red sand. It's got white sand, yellow sand. Plentiful plants. You can see happy population, partially from that waterfall. Oh, it also has a sky bridge. I always make, alright. So this is my F1 location. Location 1. Location 2. You got magma forges. Location 3, that's, I don't know, I'm not sure what that was. 4, likewise, just kind of random rooms on the way down to like stash stuff quickly. Also 5, I swear some of these are interesting. So these are just these tricolored sand pits and the water, natural aquifer waterfall, which is a pretty neat formation, very conducive to good dwarf health. This is the beginning of my sky bridge. As you can see, we're like several Z levels off the ground, and then the sky bridge is actually up, like way up here, like pretty close to the ceiling box. And I try to do that. I try to have like different things because I play with fast dwarf. I try to do different things. Have dwarves like travel a lot because the travel doesn't take that much time. So inefficiencies in my maps are actually a good thing because it'll like force a dwarf to like go out and get some sunshine and then, you know, like practice different skills, you know, go do plant gathering, smooth the stone floor. I'll have like meeting areas like taverns and stuff like way down in the basement because there is not that much of a time sink to actually walk and haul things. It's a good way to get every dwarf familiar with all kinds of things. Oh yeah, I forgot to save after that happened. Preserve at all costs. Cool. Alright, now we got a map. I was still hoping to show you guys. I was thinking like a goblin siege, but I got a snow beast that died immediately. All right. Well, if you made it this far in the video, appreciate any likes, subscribes, comments. All help more people learn about Dwarf Fortress, which is becoming increasingly niche again. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's returning to just the really hardcore fans. But it's cool to teach and talk about and discuss, and this is a good, I've always found this is a good forum to learn things about Dwarf Fortress. So, yeah, leave me a comment if you have any thoughts. I will say one more thing I want to say before I sign off is, like, if you're looking at if the video's synced up, the natural algorithm, it's not really an algorithm, but when you tell the dwarves to just get the closest material and build floors, it will be like a geographical sample of like the different kinds of stones that are in that area, and it'll make like interesting patterns like that. I kind of like that natural look, as you can tell. And I mean, that's another cope for being disorganized. But all right, I'll catch everybody in the next one. I will let you know what happens with this crocodile.